One of our favorite sponsors is back with us, Sunset Lake CBD.
Yeah.
If you're looking for CBD that actually does what CBD is supposed to do, look no further than our friends over at Sunset Lake.
Let me break it down.
Break it down, Mel.
They're sustainably farmed, meaning they avoid pesticides and use sustainable farming practices to preserve the land for future generations. 1. 2, farm to table. They ship the CBD products straight from their door in Vermont directly to your door wherever you're at.
Now that's cool.
And third party tested. They test everything with a third party to ensure quality, dosage, and safety.
You got to go over and check out sunsetlakecbd.com. They have so many products. Break it down for them, Apple.
Well, they've got some new stuff going on. Like they always had pre-rolls, but now they got really cool packaging for it. And you can get CBD pre-roll flights of all their flavors. You can get the heavy hitter flight that also throws in some of their Keef blunts. They have a new CBD recovery body lotion.
I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other?
The other one with arnica.
The extra strength muscle rub, 3,000 milligram with 5% lidocaine.
So look,
Oh, yeah,
if you're
lidocaine.
sore, this is the stuff you want to rub on your body to make those aches and pains go away. They even have CBD infused coffee, so you can have coffee without the little jitter that you get from caffeine, and you have it in the morning and you start your day off right. Your body feels lubricated. You're going to sleep good.
Yeah, and also they have, if you kind of forget to reorder, they've got subscriptions.
And they're giving the No Simple Road family 20% off.
20% off.
Put
with
in the promo code NSR20 when you're checking out at sunsetlakecbd.com. You're going to get 20% off your entire order.
NSR20.
And don't forget those cute little gummy bears.
That's right. sunsetlakecbd.com, one of our favorite sponsors, is back. This episode of No Simple Road is brought to you by Manscaped,
Manscaped.
who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. So listen, it's been a long, weird, cold, quarantined winter. The sun's starting to come out, and you know what that means. It's time to drop your drawers, right?
I mean,
Guess
that's not
so.
the first thing
I mean,
I
there's
thought
a lot of
of,
people
but
that want to do that.
When you want to drop your drawers, you do not want to look like a wook below the waist.
That's true.
Manscaped's got you covered.
It is bikini season.
Well, they've got you uncovered, actually, because they obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, and I bet those men's, women's, friends, and lovers trust them as well. Yeah, you could have a friend that looks at your balls.
Okay.
I mean, that happens.
why
That's a
not?
thing.
All right.
So they hooked us up with a bunch of tools and formulations from their Perfect Package 3.0 kit. And I got to say that the ball toner is pretty awesome. The ball deodorant is pretty awesome. But they gave us this thing. It's called the Lawnmower 3.0. And it's a trimmer. And it's got a light on it. And the fucking thing can actually go in the shower with you. So you are not going to get
Waterproof.
electrocuted while you're
You're
trying
not going
to
to cut yourself. You're not going to get electrocuted.
No. None of that
These are
stuff.
good things.
They are good things. And you know what? When the sun is out and you've dropped your drawers and you're showing off your brand new trimmed package to someone, you can be proud because you ordered from Manscaped. So they're hooking up the No Simple Road family with 20%
Hear that,
off.
everybody?
Go to manscaped.com, put in the promo code NSR20. You're going to get
NSR20.
20% off your purchase because they love you, we love you, and we want to make sure that your package is on point. I mean, it's just the way it is. So go over to manscaped.com, put in the promo code NSR20, get 20% off, get yourself the whole package. They even have a thing that like
The
it's
tool
like-
shed.
Yeah, but thank you, Apple. It's
That you
called
put
the
all
tool
the things
shed.
in.
And look, as it starts to get hotter out and you're running around outside, they even have ball wipes so you don't get bat wing. So No Simple Road loves you. Manscaped loves you. We want to make sure that your balls look good. So check it out. Manscaped.com, NSR20.
Have you ever listened to Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Out of a chili pepper?
That you got from Electric Fish Lights?
Shit.
We have. We're going to
Darwin
if we order a chili pepper light, which I'm sure
Yes.
that he would make.
And
yeah.
you out there going, what the fuck is a chili pepper light? Listen, Electric Fish Lights creates lights with this amazing technology called IQ technology. And Aaron,
What
what's
does that
IQ
stand for?
technology? I'm glad you asked, Mel. IQ technology is a system of 30 interlocking pieces that can be configured into 15 different shapes. And when you put those pieces together, the combinations are endless. And Electric
Wow.
Fish Lights will build you basically anything that comes into your head that they can configure into making a light. And these lights have not just a regular bullshit light bulb in them. They've got a 12-year energy efficient, safe to leave on LED bulb. They also have bulbs that have color changing upgrade that'll like flash and
That's my
dance and
favorite.
make rainbows on your wall. And then they also have another light bulb that has like a Bluetooth speaker in it. So not only will it flash, dance, and make rainbows on your wall, it will play music to that flashy, dancy rainbow that's happening on your wall. So there's a lot going on here. Go to electricfishlights.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. Or go to @electricfishlights on Instagram and look at the amazing things that they're doing over there. Tell them that you're part of the No Simple Road family by putting in the promo code NSR when you check out. You're going to get 10% off. And any NSR family member that orders the color changing upgrade bulb, they get a limited edition, one of a kind, No Simple Road print that was done in collaboration with No Simple Road and Electric Fish Lights. So you will not only have a light that lights up your life, you'll have a poster that lights up your mind. So go to electricfishlights.com or @electricfishlights on Instagram. Put in the promo code NSR, get 10% off, and enlighten yourself.
Hey everyone, Chris Pandolfi from the infamous String Dusters here to let you know that my podcast, Inside the Musician's Brain, is back on the airwaves for season 4, which means it's time once again to get deep with influential musicians from all across the musical landscape to really understand and translate the lessons of success, failure, inspiration, and hard work that are behind the music and the artists that we love. My guests this season include Rachel Price from Lake Street Dives, Sam Bush, Chris Wood, Chris Funk from The Decemberists, Lindsay Liu, MC Taylor from His Golden Messenger, and more. Check us out, and thanks for listening.
We're so excited to tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Music Masters Collective. They are a nonprofit organization that produces unique music events, providing opportunities for fans and artists to meet and collaborate in an inspired and creative atmosphere.
Music Masters Collective events give you the opportunity to learn from world-class musicians like Otil Burbridge, Steve Earle, Richard Thompson, former members of the band, the Milk Carton Kids, Nikki Glaspie, the Fab Four, and Sean Colvin, and so many more.
At an event like the Milk Carton Kids Sad Song Summer Camp happening this July, you can expect immersive classes, evenings of entertainment, excellent food, and a space for a lucky group of folks to learn, co-write, workshop, and perform with like-minded peers, all with the guidance of Kenneth Pattengale, Joey Ryan, and some of their favorite songwriters. This all-inclusive week in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York is guaranteed to be magical. Scholarships are available and spots are extremely limited, so visit www.sadsongssummercamp.com/simple to learn more. That's www.sadsongssummercamp.com/simple. Check it out.
No simple road. No simple road. No simple road. No simple road.
It's like 3.
You're endless. You never stop. Your possibilities are endless.
That is true. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey now, No Simple Road family. How's everybody doing?
Hey.
Welcome back.
Hey.
What up?
So, yeah, guys and girls and all you human beings out there, I
And
want to,
aliens.
yeah, especially
leave
you
'em out.
aliens. I have something special for you. Well, we have something special for you. I'm shot out of a cannon today. We have
It's like
something
me the other day.
yeah, except anyway.
How many cups of coffee have you
Are
had
you trying to
today,
get
young
through this as
man?
fast as you can?
No,
or
I'm
what's
just
going
shot
on?
out of a cannon.
Calm down. Nobody
This-
should be
Take a
heavy
couple deep
breathing
breaths,
while
babe.
podcasting.
This week, we have something special for you. The one and only Gordon White is our guest this week. He is the host of Rune Soup. He has an amazing podcast that you guys, if you don't listen to it, you're blowing it. You need to go listen to Rune Soup. Gordon is probably one of the most intelligent people that I could think of that we have had the pleasure of talking to and really had some concrete words for us, some good thoughts and insight. Thank you, Mel, is the word I was looking for the times that we're in and where we're at as a human collective, as a planetary being.
And he also wasn't doomsday, which made me very happy.
No, he was not doom and gloom. He wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, though.
No,
he was very frank about where we're at and where we're going.
He was too legit to quit.
Oh shit! Too legit to quit.
Well, and he's one of the just everything he had. There's like references for, and this comes from like there's fact backing up a lot of stuff. A lot of people because like. This wasn't very I first heard of him through Greg Carlwood, who we've had on the show.
Mm-hmm. Gordon's been a guest on Greg's show, I think 13 times.
Yeah, and on the Higher Side Chats, that's what we're talking about. And this is, I think he says it in this too. He's one of he knows like a little bit about everything. This is a person that knows, in my opinion, a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah,
and. Starting this one, we really had no idea. I remember going into it, we're like, "What? This is a person where you don't know exactly what to ask because there's so many things to ask."
Well, the reason I reached out to Gordon in the first place to come on No Simple Road was this is back in February that we did this conversation.
Yeah,
and we were at a spot where I told these guys, I was like, "Look, I want to help our family."
Give them some tools.
Yeah, give them some tools to be able to navigate the space that we're all in. I love having musical guests on the show. We're never going to stop doing that. But I also wanted to start bringing you guys a little meat alongside the fun.
The dessert.
Yeah. And so this was one of the first ones of those that came through. And it's funny, this conversation kind of started a trend with the conversations that we've had since.
It almost was like a continuation. No, because remember it was like even with Jamal back when back when we did that, it was like a continuation of this bigger conversation that we keep having.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah,
but
the great conversation.
Thank you.
Should you?
Yeah. Well, we need to tell you about it. We have a special guest joining us today, who you just heard there for a second. So it said something. This is somebody that came to us. You have been a listener and following us since early on. We've been doing this a while. So welcome to the show.
Oh wow, not that early.
Yeah.
This is Song. And she is a family member. She has come down here to stay with us for a few days and visit us. And let's everybody welcome Song to the show and say hi. And
welcome, Song.
Say hi, Song. Tell everybody hi.
Aloha.
There it is.
There you go.
So yeah, Song and I have been corresponding on Instagram for a while. And she was making her way out west and was going to be up around Portland, and I was like, you know what, you should come hang out. And then lo and behold, this car pulls up in front of the house and out walks Song. No, it was cool, man. I told you yesterday, I was like, we manifested each other out of the internet, and that's still a trip to me.
Really?
Yeah, really.
How many people have you met from the internet?
A lot.
It's still weird.
Yeah, we've met a lot.
You've met a lot.
Not like hundreds, but like at least more than 2 handfuls.
And is it weird each time?
Yes.
It's weird because everybody has their own experience with us. So when we meet them, it's unusual. Maybe not weird. It's just unusual.
It's weird to me. I'm sorry. It's not just unusual. It's weird and not in a bad way. It's very cool.
We like weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a direct manifestation of the life of the show for me. Like I see the No Simple Road family on Instagram, right? But not all of them show up at our house. You know what I mean? And
I do appreciate the hospitality. So
Oh,
thank you very
well,
much.
we love having you here.
Good.
Yes.
You're welcome.
It is beautiful.
Mm.
So
It's been a lot of fun having you over. And
appreciate it.
but like I said, it's not it's just strange to me that like there is something that we're all gathering around. That's cool to me.
Yes. Like your digital campfire
Yeah.
metaphor.
Yeah. So, yeah, welcome to the No Simple Road home.
Yeah.
Thank
So-
you for having me.
You're welcome. So anyway, yeah, I wanted to bring you guys more, and this is the beginning or middle of that.
Of more.
Of more, yeah.
There will be more.
There will be more as more continues, but
Yeah, there won't be less.
no, there never will be less. And this is also, like I said, the beginning or middle of a larger thing that's going on with No Simple Road, and we have started something with the folks over at Saint Disruption.
Oh yeah.
And Jeff Firewalker Schmidt and John Medeski did a collaboration. If you guys don't already know, created a thing called Saint Disruption.
Music collaborative.
Yeah. And just are releasing singles right now. And after our conversation with Jeff, he and I continued talking. And very soon, I'm going to have an official announcement for you guys as to what No Simple Road and Saint Disruption are up to. But suffice it to say, at this stage of the game, it's really fucking amazing. And I'm super excited
It's an exciting announcement.
Yeah, and also, on,
This has been cooking. This is one
Yeah.
Aaron. Then how he keeps saying we've got things cooking.
Yeah, Aaron
It's-
keeps talking about all these secrets, but he never tells.
This isn't a secret. This is a. I want to tell you guys
Is it
about
a teaser?
this when it's completely baked. I don't
Yeah.
want to give you a half baked cake. I
Well,
want
we are collaborating with Saint Disruption, so that is an awesome thing
Right.
that we can say, and that I'm excited about, because we're not necessarily being musicians in it. That's why they call it a collaborative, because it's something that's going to bring people together and bring out this message.
right.
So we're stoked to do that.
So what's going on? I'll tell you what's happening is like every month, Saint Disruption is going to be taking submissions from poets of poetry, and they are going to select one poem every month and paint that poem sonically. Medeski and Jeff are going to go into the studio and put music to the poem, and then that poet is going to come on No Simple Road with Jeff and John, and they will tell them, if part of them coming on the show is having asked them the question if they could talk to any like luminary poet, inventor, author, artist, whoever, who would it be? And so we will attempt to get that person on the show with the poet, Saint Disruption, and No Simple Road.
In a roundtable
And
discussion about the poetry and the inspiration and intention behind
And
the
so
poem.
It's amazing, powerful stuff.
That's the short
gonna happen.
version of that.
yeah, we will, like I said, we'll have an official announcement of all of it. And then also I want to tell you guys about one other thing too. On
Tam.
June 5th,
Oh,
Jeff Firewalker Schmidt is going to be here at our house, and he's going to be teaching a class that you can all sign up for. And I'm going to have this on nosimpleroad.com. It's not up there yet. This also is a teaser, but this is a amazing thing that he has put
I'm
together.
really excited for his class that he's going to be putting on. He is going to be doing a in-person and virtual workshop about the times that we're living in and what we can all do to turn on our warrior selves and, make it through.
So the name of the class is Sovereignty and the Warrior's Path, Opportunity in the Time of COVID-19. And this is just a little blurb that he wrote.
Solution.
Do not lose the spiritual dimension of the crisis. Have the eagle aspect from above and see the whole. See more broadly. There is a social demand in the crisis, but there is a spiritual demand. The two go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we fall into fanaticism. But without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and lack of meaning. You were prepared to go through the crisis. Take your toolbox and use all the tools available to you. That's a quote from Joseph White Eagle. So Jeff said, in this experiential workshop, we will explore how to harness the forces of chaos and transformation for personal growth and greater service. This is a time of great confusion and uncertainty for many, hearts and minds filled with unanswered questions. We will apply the ancient wisdom tradition of the Andes and northern coastal Peru to more effectively navigate these times. Here's what participants will learn in the workshop. Internal energy process for grounding and clarity, ways to release fear from the body, methods to access more energy, techniques for connecting to the earth and to achieve insight and connection, native and mystery school understanding of this period of planetary evolution, and prophecies from numerous ancient cultures about this time. So be on the lookout on NoSimpleRoad.com. There will be a sign up there, and you can go sign up and join us when we do that here on June 5th. So that's pretty exciting stuff, man. That's two of the secrets that I've been keeping from you guys. Aaron's secret corner here on.
And you're like, no, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, this is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not telling you now, but listen, here's what's happening. Anyway, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. What?
I was just going to mention TAM integration.
Mention away.
The psychedelic integration that's going to be coming up April 16th,
17th, 18th, and 19th.
It's 4 days.
Yeah, it is 4 days. They've included
the bicycle day. Yeah.
And No Simple Road will be speaking
on Friday,
April 16th at 5:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can go to psychedelicintegration.family/NSR to sign up. You get 10% off. And our talk is called Whatever You Do, Take Care of Your Shoes. So go check it out. Come hang out with us. There's like I looked at our speaker dashboard the other day. There's like 500 people that have signed up for our talk.
Dang.
So
holy crap.
I'm excited.
Are you guys prepared? Did you write up a thesis?
You know that
did
I wrote
you really
one.
write? Oh yeah, you did write something up.
Yes, I sure did.
Yeah, do you know what I did?
No, Mel, we're just going to talk. And I was like, okay.
I didn't write anything. I know what I'm going to say already though.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have to tune in.
We're always prepared. We're highly trained professionals.
Oh yeah, man. Look at us. I know what I'm doing.
Look at us with all of our notes and everything. Look at my notes.
Mel's book is completely blank.
There's a heart. I love it. There's this one little doodle. Oh my God.
You got to pass it. You got to see it.
It's a little dude and it's a guy with a baseball hat on and a beard, and his shirt says concert tee image.
Okay, that's kind of dope. Concert tee. We saw one the other day when we were at a store and we saw that generic tee.
Oh, it's generic.
I was like, Aaron, you got to come see this. And it was just the most generic shirt, and it said Rock Festival.
Rock Music Festival.
Rock Music Festival. Just like kind of like just insert whatever here.
Insert
I
Music
almost
Festival
got
here.
it.
You should have. It'd be awesome to wear the first show back after all this. I lost all my concert T-shirts, but I got this one.
This is what happened in 2020.
You know, let's not go there. I am so excited. So Red Rocks announced they're having shows.
I'm so excited.
Oh my
And
God.
he just can't hide it. He's about to tell you all, and you think you'll like it.
No,
come on,
seriously,
come on.
There's music in our future, man.
There is music in our future.
Yes, there
Come
is.
on. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's more in the
huge
light at the end of the tunnel now. It's
No,
like,
it's a train
it's
that's
like,
going to hit you in the face at this point.
yes.
It's going to be, I can't even go there in my head yet. It's close. And we've had an invite to go see Goose and do other stuff. I don't know.
Things are starting to happen.
West Coast is sleeping still though, man. You guys need to wake up. Wake up out there. Come on. We need music.
West Coast is always a little sleepier.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know.
And we all love that. We love that about the West Coast.
I was just going to say that's kind of why we live on the West Coast. I like that kind of chill vibe, but at this point, I'm done being chill. As you guys hear today, It's time to go do stuff. Spring has sprung.
The bunnies are out.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
The daffodils have popped up on the side of the highways and stuff. I love seeing that. You know, spring is here.
So if this is your first time listening to No Simple Road and you're wondering, why the hell haven't these guys got to the interview yet? We don't do that. you get like two in one. We do like a really long intro, and then you get an interview. So just hang out,
talk
man.
about the things
We're
that are
here.
coming up,
Relax.
and what's happening.
And so now I want to hear from Song, because we have a beautiful special guest up in the house. She made it a long way. She's had lots of fun adventures. Wonderful storyteller. Very strong opinions, and very you're a great speaker, an intellectual person, creative.
Thank you.
And these are all the things that I just met from less than 24 hours knowing you, plus a little internet stuff.
So tell us about your week. How's your last week been, Song?
It's funny because it's only been a week, but it feels so much longer than a week. It really does. Like, it hit me the other day. Like, I've been on the road for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I've been on the road. And it's really strange to me because I have that kind of warped sense of time. You know, like, I've spent a few hours in one town and felt a lifetime's worth of imagery and, you know, just impressions, if you will, feelings, you know, thoughts, ideas, you know, all that stuff in just a few hours. And then I've gone and stayed places for, you know, a few days, and that has its own sense of time.
Yeah.
So it's just like time, like you say, like, what's the last week been like? It's like, I gotta wait, what day are we on?
No shit.
Wait, today is Saturday, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I left the house. All right, where was I? Okay, but where was I yesterday? What did I do yesterday? What did I see yesterday? Because it's just been very expansive.
So you
Especially,
just got in the car and started driving? Like, where were you when you started?
I was on the East Coast in Virginia, and it was one of those, I have the opportunity to go. I have what I need to be able to go wherever and just start whatever it is that I want to start, you know, and
As far as like your life or a business or
yeah,
your new
no, it's just,
phase
it's
or
like,
whatever.
what are you, my favorite question Allison Gray ever asked was, what are you doing with your life? She didn't, like, when we first met, she didn't say, you know, what do you do for a living? She said, what are you doing with your life? And we spoke about opening up certain, like, when somebody has that magic phrase that just like opens
Yes.
you up.
Yeah.
It was, for years I had been considered like, what do you do for a living? You know, it's like, I work a job that I'm good at and I do well, and I'm grateful that I have a job, because so many people don't have a job, but it's not, I mean, I can put my passion and energy into it and make it something really great. You know, any job that I do to the best of my ability. That's just my work ethic. But like, what do you do for a living? Like, the word living is like,
Passionate.
You know.
What are you
That's
passionate
just-
about?
so
Yeah.
what are you doing with your life? It took the emphasis off like the work part of it and opened it up to what everything is. You know, what are you
Yeah.
doing with your life? Well, I work. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And I write and I do art and I do this and I do that.
music?
And, you know, like, I'm doing
A lot.
wow.
Yeah,
That's where all my time goes is into life, you know, into, you know, realize it. And when you get asked that question, it really does kind of change, you know, what you're doing. So yeah, I had the opportunity to go west. I was like, let me take it. 'Cause I just knew that I wanted to go west, and I really enjoy being on the road. You know, it's something like the long distance road trip, long distance road. Yeah. You know, but that like well, yes, but the long distance thing is, for driving it's kind of like writing, right? Like, when you're a writer, some people write short poetry. Some people write novels, long books, autobiographies, memoirs, you know, some people write textbooks, you know, so it's when you think about, like, it's the same sort of thing on driving. You know, sometimes you can go for a short drive, have a whole lot of impressions. You can go to a town or whatever. It's the long term, like the long distance rather, driving, you know, that long thing is new. And so I knew I needed that.
You needed some headspace.
I needed some hum space. I needed to hear the hum of the tires beneath me and the feel of the
Almost
highway.
like that moving
And-
meditation.
Oh yeah, and driving has always been, driving for me has been therapeutic. It has been meditative. It has been, you know,
Relaxing, calming for me. I know those things when
It's-
I drive long term, it makes me feel at ease.
yeah. And also, it's just, I think driving is just a great metaphor for life. You know, sometimes you need those weird subconscious reminders, you know, as you're living your life, like the just like, oh, right, yeah, okay, how you appreciate different things and different aspects. And you need to be reminded, because sometimes when you're sitting in one spot, you know, you can start to feel a little bit like a statue, and that makes you feel not so great, you know.
So there's something to that is a great reminder, like you said, of our freedom as a human being alive on the planet.
Yeah.
That you are not literally held anywhere unless you're in prison. But I mean,
But even so, movement, like even if you're sitting still, there's movement. Just on a quantum level, there's movement.
Right.
So anything that you can conceive in your mind, you can be moving. You know, you could be moving at the speed of light and be somewhere. It's just your physical body's just not moving.
right.
You know?
But being on the road, like if people, I know that when I felt stuck in
Yeah.
life or like was lacking direction or purpose, that taking a road trip was a great reminder that there is way more out there than I am seeing. And like the thing that always impressed, like tripped me out when I would drive, like I'd be driving like up the 101 through Santa Barbara, and it's like
It's a beautiful drive.
2:00 in the morning, right? And it's that like haze, that what is it, marine layer that comes in, and it's kind of dim, and that smell of the ocean in the air. This is like a really visceral memory for me. And I remember like driving in the school bus. This is when I was touring with the Dead, and like thinking to myself as I was looking at the houses going by, there is a life. Somebody's entire life is going on inside that house and that house and that house and that house. And then spread it out over the city. There's all these lives happening with like all these different intersections and trials, tribulations, dramas, joy, triumph, all this stuff happening. And me thinking that my little corner of the world is it. I'm nuts. Like there's so much more happening out here, and it's infinite, the possibility of what I can do. All I have to do is figure out what it is I want to do and do it.
Right. Well, I think that it's a helpful reminder to go to other places and just see, because while you do see all of like, you know, like there's the commonality. There's lives going on in these houses. There's, you know, trials, tribulations, everything that you just said, and there's the joys and the blessings and all of that. That's the common thread.
That's a word.
Thread.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The common strand, the common thread. Thread. If you, that's the running theme, no matter where you go. Even, I mean, well, I can't speak because I've never been outside the country, but I would imagine that's the same everywhere. You know, like that's what human sentient life is. Not the same as dog sentient life, but that's what we do, right? We build our cities, we habitate, we do all that. No matter where you go, it's like that. But the nice thing about traveling is you also get to start to see patterns and like trends within certain things. So you start to see similarity, like you start to see different, like you see the differences, right? You travel to a town you've never been in, you're going to notice the differences first. You know, what is different from everything else that you've seen? What makes this town unique, right? So you have the thread, there's life, and then you have, you know, that uniqueness, and then you start to see the pattern in all of the uniqueness. Like you start to say, well, it's not, this and this are very similar, but they're different than this and this and this and this, and you start to see how dynamics at play. Like you just start to see all these different things, and that's what I love about traveling.
And that can help you find your place too.
Oh my God, yeah. There's a quote, and I'm not going to remember who said it. And
It's okay.
It'll be yours until we find out who it is.
no, it really is somebody. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but it had to do with, just saying like, once a mind stretches, it can't go back to its original size. And that's a different quote. But the quote that I'm trying to remember is, your mind can't stay small when you travel. Because the further you go, the different communities, cultures, countries, whatever, the more that you see, the more your mind is going to stretch. The more your mind stretches, you're not going to be able to shrink back down to, whatever small set. And if you're in a small setting and you already have a big, mind, you get stretched. I don't mean like a big head, like
people that travel a lot
egotistical,
are
but-
worldly.
Well, yeah, you have knowledge.
Once you learn it, you don't. I mean,
Can't unsee what you have seen.
Yeah. Oh my God, no, you
Yes.
can't. Sometimes you really wish that you could, but you cannot.
So it sounds like
travel
a hell
to
of a
me
journey.
travel to me too is like what you're describing. The thing about travel, like hitting the road, like right now and driving with maybe a destination, but the possibility,
timeline.
Yeah, the possibilities are so open to what you're going to experience just going out there. You're going to be using all your senses while you're out and traveling, and it's like like watching the mystery unfold.
Well, that's like the fun part of it too, is because like you can ask the universe for something and then have a story, and have an adventure, be like, especially traveling without a destination. When you don't have that, it took me a couple days to realize that I didn't literally have to be anywhere by a specific time. It was just like the West was calling and I must go. Like that's all that was of how I left the house.
That was
West
the only direction.
Yeah, it was just like West, maybe some North, but definitely West. I want to go see this. I want to see the Redwoods because I've never seen the Redwoods. Well, maybe when I was very little, but I want to see the Redwoods now. And, wanted to be in California. I missed California. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think
California
I can
missed
lie.
you too.
It did. And it was, and I didn't know I was gonna start at the bottom. I had no idea. I was just like, I'm just going west. Now this highway is boring, so I'm gonna go south, and then I'm gonna come back. I got to see New Mexico that way. I completely was just on the highway, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I don't want to be on the highway. This is like, if I see one more Denny's, if I see one more, this does not feel like an adventure. Don't get me wrong. I can put on like music and like bop
Pump
around and
yourself up.
and stuff like that. But it was just like, I've seen one too many,
Truck stops.
yeah. So I was just like, all right. And so that's when I decided to go to Roswell, and then I got to Roswell. I didn't even make it into Roswell. I was just like,
That's enough.
These aliens are cute everywhere. But this is, I don't think I'm that person. I don't think that this is what I would want to do. I don't know what I want to do yet, but I don't think that this, at least not right now. Cause it was also cloudy. And so it's I don't want to go walk around somewhere where it's
Yeah.
so.
You weren't feeling it.
No, but I got to have the most spirited adventure out of that decision. The aliens called and said, go to Roswell. I got to Roswell and I was like, I'm here, but I don't know if I really want to hang out with you. And they were like, that's fine. You're on your own. And I went back to going to West, but now I was down in New Mexico and I could actually take in for the first time where I was. And I ended up being on a very scenic route. And it was really strange because I'd been seeing desert and springtime and everything. And all of a sudden I found myself in snow. Snow is coming down and it's well, this is beautiful. I hope that I do not get stuck in a snowstorm, but this is beautiful. And I found these 2 shops, and like when you have like little inside jokes with yourself, like I don't know about you guys. Do you guys have that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys have like, and like where you see it, like all of a sudden, like you'll see like a billboard sign and be like, well played. You know, like you leave little jokes for yourself out. I know that sounds a little weird, but
Not at
It
all.
doesn't.
you leave like little inside jokes out in the world for yourself. So it's like, and some people would be like, I see you, God, you know, and sometimes and I do. And sometimes it's like, all right, universe, well played. And sometimes I'm like, oh, universe, you love me. Thank you. You know, like it depends on, you know, what it is. But I had that moment in New Mexico, and that was really fun.
When it opens up like that, and you see yourself reflected in the world outside, and it's talking back to you like that, it's fucking rad.
Yeah, you feel like the travel then doesn't become such a you don't take on that absent-mindedness, because that can happen. Like you'll start to think about what's going on in the life you left behind, think about what's going to happen in the life that you're going toward. What do you really want to do? You ask, you know, when you're on a soul-searching mission too, you know, you ask. Every day of my life is a spiritual soul-searching day. It's just how I am. You know, it's just in my nature. Some days it's a little bit like relaxed, and sometimes it's very studious depending on the research that I'm doing. But yeah, no, like when you're traveling in this way, it actually, it feels like a dialogue.
That's amazing.
You know, it feels like it's not even so much as me talking to my creator or talking to my higher power or talking to the deep inside well reservoir kind of place inside. You know, like I'm the only person who knows me, like in here. And so when you see stuff like that echoed back, it's like, okay, all right. You know, you give your higher self can give yourself reassurance. And there's been times, you know, I think in anybody's life where you have to rely on that thing. We all have it. It's why we're all told, you know, go inside, you know. We all have that thing on the inside that'll be like, all right, dry your tears, baby girl. Like, no more. Like, you got to stop and pull yourself up, or, you know, listen here, buddy. Like, come on. Let's, you know, do this. Or even just like, are you sitting down? Are you ready? Okay, I got some news for you. We have to do this, that, and the other thing, and it's not going to be comfortable. Or, you know, I know this is going to make you excited, but you have to just
take it easy.
Take it easy. You know, down, easy, go. You know, so, you know, I have conversations with my higher, quote unquote, higher self all the time, but I get into fights with my higher self all the time too, you know, like I don't want to go do that thing.
Yeah.
You don't understand me. Like,
Yeah.
that's my favorite one, because the
You
higher
don't know
self.
my life.
You don't understand what it's like to be me. Like, what, really? Is that what you really want to say right now? Like, are you sure? It's like, God, fine, I'll go do the thing. But I a lot of my self-talk is like, you know, kid sister to an, you know, older
So have
sibling.
you worked out some good stuff?
For
Or are you still in this
On the trip.
On the
on the
trip,
trip? Yeah, no, for sure. I've look a hummingbird. Sorry.
Oh, I know that they're in full force
squirrel.
today. I see
Yeah.
where that little baby.
Spring and spring.
No, I love hummingbirds. They
Little messengers.
so where I was in Virginia, like when deer would come by, I always knew deer were by because I could feel them. Like all of a sudden I'd be like, what is that pillowy soft? And then I'd turn out my window and there would be a deer outside, or like a herd of deer. So, and it's the same thing with hummingbirds. All of a sudden it's like, I'll get very like, yeah. What is that? I hear, oh, look, it's hummingbird. I get really excited. I get excited by certain birds. Hummingbirds are one of them. I like crows. I like hawks.
We got a
yeah,
couple
you saw
of
hawk
hawks
and
that
hummingbird
hang out
since you've
out
been here.
Yeah.
That's like the totem of the house. It seems like they they circle.
It
over
feels
the
like
house.
it's Aaron. It's like Grandpa
It's my dad.
and Marianne when they
Yeah.
come. Yeah.
You know, being on the road, if you're unsure of where you're at in your life and like searching, it's such a cliche metaphor, being on the road.
Yeah.
But it's so true how formative it is, and like you will find your way.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I remember when I was turning 30, and I just remember saying, I don't want any presents. All I want to do is drive by myself. At that point, at 30 years old, I'd never driven like outside of state lines on my own. It was always with you or the kids, but I never like been on my own solo trip, and that's just what I desired. I needed it.
And that is really important, no offense, for women.
Oh my God.
It is really important right now for women to have that sort of independence on the road. Like to be able to take that soul mission with yourself. I mean, it doesn't have to be on the road. It's just whatever it
On
is.
your own.
There's a number of ways that you can have
Yes.
that experience, but it's really important for women, especially younger women, to do that. But it's also scary to travel
yeah.
as a woman
On your own.
on your own.
You gotta be
There's a lot of
careful.
things that you wouldn't have to think about if you were a man. Like you just don't.
You know what?
It's in
I
our
ain't gonna lie. It can be
consciousness.
scary as a man.
Sure.
Traveling on the road. The
It
road's
can-
gnarly.
The road
It
is
can
hard
be.
for us all. Like
It can be, depending, but that's so having traveled the way that I did, you know, like understanding, okay, 3 hours will get you pretty far. If you need to, you know, like if you're like not unsure of like, if you're in a sketch area and you drive for an hour and you check out that area, like if you're getting tired of being like, you know, you need to take a rest, like you'll find like within an hour, you could be in a different type of thing. And there are stops that, you know, you can make along the way if you get really tired that are safe and secure, you know, and you'll know just by, there has been times where I've been stopped and I knew based on the energy field around the field of
yes.
truckers that nobody was going to mess with my vehicle. Like I felt
You're
safe among
protected.
them, you know, like they made me feel safe around them. Not one, you know, it was like they acknowledged me. They were like, because when you're on the road, you acknowledge fellow travelers. And if you're a good Samaritan or if you're a good human being, you're going to, and if you live your life in with kindness and not, and I don't mean like niceness, kindness, but like when you literally see somebody in need and recognize,
Yeah.
like, okay, did I need quote unquote protection? No, but you can recognize that if there was a situation that were to occur, I feel like I would want to protect that human being.
Right.
You know, like, and it's not a judgment call. That's how you are in any situation,
yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah, it's not situational. Like, oh,
no.
if this or that. It's just, it's happening. I'm
yeah,
acting.
but that's why it's important for people to anybody. I genuinely feel. I mean, and I mean, you guys have gotten used to me, so you understand the tangent thing. But
There's a lot going on for everybody who's
the tabs
out there.
are all open, and I'm going to jump
Yeah.
tracks real quick. But I promise it'll make sense to what we were talking about.
We're talking about women traveling. It's
yeah.
important for women and men alike. It's just a little bit for women that you really do have to be extra careful and watch your back. But it can be very empowering and liberating.
Yes, I once stood at two big trips that I took by myself. We're going to skip the first one. The Colorado trip. I remember standing there and I literally remember the dude's name because he was wearing, I'm sorry, it's coming back to me like, he had the hello, my name is name
Yeah.
tags. It said, hi, we're all family here, but it was spelled with W-E-I-R. We're all family.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And it said Larry. And I was like, oh, that's my my stepfather's name is Larry. So it's like familiar, family, weird. I love Bobby. So it's like, I looked up and I just like, hi, I'm nice to meet you without saying, like just smiling. And he was like, hey. And like all of a sudden it was like, floop, now you're part of this little I don't know what you would call it, like the, pod, maybe. I don't know. Like, he introduced me
You're
to
in
the
the
people.
bubble.
Yeah, it's in the bubble. But through our talking, I bring it up because through our talking, he turned to me at one point and he was like, "How did you get to be so secure?" And I was like,
That's a weird.
What?
Wait,
That's
What-
something
what do
that
you-
doesn't make me feel very secure.
I know, yeah. I was like, what do you?
Because you shouldn't be. You got a pretty mouth.
But it was like one of those. I was like, what do you? And I was like, can you define secure? And he's like, no. He's like, I wouldn't. I'm here with da da da. And these people travel, but it's not. It's unusual for a girl to be traveling. Like, you must feel really secure that you are capable of driving. And he's like, I don't know if he said impressed, but it was like that kind of like,
Yeah, you got
you got cojones.
got props.
You got cojones for a girl. It was one of those. Yeah, you got props. It was one of those moments of just, like, oh, like, wow, like, how did you, you drove all the way from New York to Colorado and you're gonna go drive back. Like, you have to and you do. You have to have certain level of confidence in your driving ability, in your ability to navigate the world alone, where you're staying, all of that stuff. People, you have to protect your energy because you're never sure who you're going to run into.
You got to trust yourself.
When I got to
Yeah.
Venice this time around, it was early morning. I was looking at I was on the boardwalk and I was looking at this woman's art and she started to yell at me and have one of those moments. And I got accused of, I'm like, she was like, you're working for the CIA. And I'm like, why does this keep happening to me every time I'm in like LA? It's only LA that happens. And I'm like,
And you miss it.
I do in a weird way. Cause I'm like, well, what makes you think my bank account would like that to be true? But like, it's not like, or they're so secretive that I don't even know that I'm there.
You're
like,
working for him and you don't even know.
I don't even know.
Damn, they're
Best
good.
employee ever. So, and it's just like, but it is one of those things because you do on the road, she said some other things, which I don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing right now. But she had said some things that, for most people would be like, oh, that's psychobabble, whatever. But for me, sometimes I hear deeper things. And sometimes it sits with me and sometimes it can, be heavy and make me not feel so great. Sometimes it could be heavy and I just know I have to sit with it for a while until it passes. It's not good, not bad. It's just heavy. It's like somebody's like, here's some of my suffering. Here's some of my pain. Here's some of my
heaviness for you.
truth.
Some of my crap.
Here's some of my truth. Here's some of my,
Do you feel like you take it on, they've put it on you, a combination of both? What do you think? How do you think that transference occurs?
That occurs because I literally sit there and listen. I just listen. Like, this woman literally, was whatever. And I watched her and I'm not watching from a place of judgment. I'm literally, you're human. But as far as I can tell, you don't look like a robot. I don't know if you could be an alien. I don't really know. But, to me, I'm going to treat you as a fellow. I'm going to treat you like a sentient being.
Right.
It doesn't really matter if you're a human or not.
And just because you're talking shit doesn't mean I'm not going to listen.
Right. Because, you're not threatening me in any way. You're not, I know when I'm in danger.
Right. Of course.
I know when we all do. That's our instinct. And I've also just, I don't know. I guess from traveling and stuff, you have that. Well, I have a hypersensitivity to begin with, but sometimes you're a little hypersensitive to certain cues. Like, when to step away. Yeah. When it's when you have reached what it is that you needed to hold.
It's called
because
road wise.
is it?
Yeah.
It's actually
Yeah,
a
that's
legitimate.
thing. Yeah,
Really?
you've become road wise.
Oh, wow. It sounds like getting sea legs.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's a aspect of a sixth sense that you get it riding
It's like
motorcycles.
street
Yeah.
smart.
You get it riding motorcycles too.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can feel when somebody's gonna change lanes into you. When
Yeah.
You ride bikes. You know when you're on the road when somebody's energy's wrong.
Yeah.
And when you're just chilling in a city and you live there and it's your life, it's different because you're not exposed in any way. You're safe at home. And whether you're out at a restaurant, a party, whatever, you're at home, you're safe. And so if somebody's energy is weird, it can go unnoticed or just blow it off. Where when you're on the road, you're exposed and you develop that sense of like, oh, it's time for me to fucking go now.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that restaurant that we pulled in on the side of the
That
road?
was fucking weird. I know exactly. That's all you had to say. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was outside of Sedona, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and we were the only ones in there. And when we walked out of that restaurant, if there was no door, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah.
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 Like it could have been hostile or something. Like
Yeah.
it was the creepiest vibe ever.
I'm glad I didn't go to Sedona.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I
no.
was
This
going
was
that
on the way
way.
there.
Yeah, it
This
wasn't in
wasn't Sedona.
Sedona. It was
Oh.
the trip that we were on to Sedona.
But, you know,
I found the Cactus Kingdom in Arizona.
I think it's
Cacti.
awesome that
Did you
Cacti.
find Bearzona?
There's a Bearzona.
There is a Bearzona.
We found it, not him and I, but me and my friend Sarah also drove to Sedona. And on the way, we found Bearzona and we stopped. And Bearzona was the shit. You go in and there was this dude that what's the bear's name? Tracy. There was a man named Tracy, and he carved wooden flutes and pipes and all kinds of little knickknacks. And he was situated as a little vendor inside of Bearzona. And you stay in your car and you drive through and you get to see all these beautiful. We saw like elk. We saw all kinds of different things, not just bears, but
It was like a kind of like a
a
game
drive-through
preserve.
zoo.
Nine
Yes,
country
like a
safari.
yes, like
okay.
a preserve.
Like-
Yes,
okay.
exactly. It was amazing and one of the funnest little off-road trips that we didn't have planned, kind of a thing.
It's the best.
It was the best. It
Well,
really is.
Well, Song, I'm honored that part of your journey includes us.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm really stoked that you're here with us for real.
I'm really grateful to be here.
Good.
So thank
I'm
you.
glad. And we're going to have a fun night tonight.
Yep.
Real quick, Mel, how
What?
was your trip this week?
Real quick. I think I had a good week.
I think?
Yeah. I mean, I just, you put me on the spot. I wasn't really prepared
Well, we're
for
usually
that.
on the spot in here.
We are on the spot, but I was off in La La Land thinking
Jumping
about
on the
Bearzona, and I've had
Bearzona's
a
cool.
I've had a good week, and because of the summer that's or not summer, spring that's been dawning upon us. Been doing some outdoor activities.
Me and Mel are becoming professional badminton players.
Yep. So that honestly, that's really was a highlight of my week, was realizing how much fun we can have doing something brand new together.
It's so fun.
That's
I
like,
look forward
it
to
takes
it.
like 2 hits and we both have
cracking
full smiles, laughing. I'm running inside because I'm really pissing my pants, getting it stuck in the tree, getting it stuck on the roof. And it's just been the silly medicine that I've needed.
Me too.
It's been perfect.
Me too.
So that's the
Silly
highlight.
medicine.
Yeah, as you guys listened to last week, I had a meltdown last Friday.
Oh, I guess I was having a meltdown at the beginning of this week, but it went
You
over
were
pretty
good,
quick.
Yeah. It was really rough. And this week was the direct antithesis of that. Felt great this week. I had an amazing attitude, felt hopeful for the future, excited about everything that's going on, pouring all of my energy into the show, pouring all of my energy into beating Mel at badminton. No, we don't even keep score. We don't even
Out loud.
Just such a difference, man. And I gotta throw a shout out to Jason and Audrey and the kids, man. Going over to their house really did something for me. And the conversation that you and I had in the car on the way over there really helped. And I just appreciate our family and our friends, man. And yeah, it's been good. And I'm really excited for all the stuff that we're bringing to you guys out there. Like, this is what we've been working for 5 years. This is it. And I can't wait to bring it to you and like have you all be a part of it. And it's going to be so fun and cool and exciting. And yeah, No Simple Road family, you guys are the best. And music is coming back. And that is just, if there's anything that makes me feel like everything's going to be okay, that's the thing. And I'm excited to go see Green Sky Bluegrass at Red Rocks later in the summer and see Circles Around the Sun. And Nate said he's going with us, and can't wait to see Nate. And my first show at Red Rocks, I can't believe I've never been. It's going to be so amazing. And yeah, I'm just excited about everything right now. That's how I feel. What about you, Apple?
I feel like I'm cocooning at the moment. That like spring is coming, but it's not here yet. We've had a false start like 10 times so far here in Oregon. I feel like I'm in a cocoon right now working on coming out.
Are you
in the
gelatin?
spring.
Are you in the jelly state?
No, I've just, well, the last few weeks, like I've said, I've talked openly about, I'm dealing with some health issues. I'm still dealing with those. I go to the doctor again this week, the following week. I'm looking forward to getting through this and feeling good every day and embracing the spring, because like, you know, right now, I love it when everybody else is happy, but when I'm not there yet, it's really hard sometimes. It's like, I just want to
retreat.
Yeah. And that's where I feel I'm at right now, but I'm tending to it, and it's going to get better. And
Nobody wants to hang out when you're not feeling 100%.
No. And this week I was just like a little rough again. I got a mental health day off work yesterday because I don't know. I'm dealing with things, and I'm going to get there. And that's all with the support of my family and our listeners and everything like that. I love everybody. And I'm working.
It was cool
So
to see you have a day off, man. It was really cool to see you have a day off.
Yeah.
And like just chill and take care of yourself. That was dope. And that was nice of your boss to offer you that.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool to have a job where your boss and you know each other well enough to where he can see that you're stressed out and be like, you're taking tomorrow off, dude. And
recognize you need
just
to
shut
do
it.
it.
It's your best interest.
Yeah.
Puts your best interest before.
That's really, you're very fortunate to have that, Apple. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's nice when people don't want to break you.
No. So, wow. All right.
Yeah. I'm not meaning to be a downer or anything, but that's, I mean,
I don't
that's
even
where
think that was a downer.
Okay, yeah.
at
No,
all.
I'm
That's
like,
just-
I'm working on stuff, and
Which, you know what, Apple, that is, you've helped me with a lot of shit too. You talking about your health stuff and just, you're not out of the woods. We've been talking about it for what, like 3 weeks now, maybe 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
You're not out of the woods, like you're in danger, but you know what I mean? Like you're still in the thick
there's no
of
woods.
it. But you're still doing everything that you need to do. And like you said, it's not fucking fun. Everybody's like having a good time and smiling. I want to smile and have a good time, but you haven't been putting that on us. And I appreciate that, one. And two, it just shows your maturity of how you've just healed a lot of things that maybe you don't necessarily think you have.
Yeah.
You know, just from the outside, like your demeanor is better, even if you don't realize that it is, because the feelings aren't the same, like that you generate generally when you're not feeling your best. Like you're still in high spirits, even though you're going through the thick of your health issues. And I can appreciate just the clarity on that, because it just makes, there's no reason to have any beef or any problems. Now the energy that is focused is all on you getting better, instead of like, well, that's shitty that he's mad that, you know what I mean? Like it turns the focus away from any negativity into let's just help mentally fix the problem. Then just give him good energy, or like, you know, I don't know.
Fix things.
Yeah. Fix things. Support. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the word, support.
And that's what it's all about. That's
Yeah.
what being a family is all about.
Yeah.
So, right on, Apple. Love you, man.
Thank you.
I know you're gonna feel better. So,
Yeah.
let's do the business. Let's get them to Gordon. Should we
Yeah,
do that?
let's do
Follow
it.
us on all the social media platforms
Do
at No
it.
Simple Road. Go to www.nosimpleroad.com
.com.
and check out the merch tab. There's shirts and cups and all kinds of
Fanny
stuff
pack, stickers.
that money helps support the show.
The
And
soft as hoodies.
they are the
They're so
softest.
soft and comfortable.
Also, all the workshop that I told you about with Jeff Firewalker, the sign up will be on nosimpleroad.com in about a week. So keep an eye out for that. And then also go to patreon.com/nosimpleroad and sign up on Patreon. Become a Chan donator. Help us keep bringing you good content, man. That is how we pay for the show, through Patreon. So go to patreon.com/nosimpleroad. And also, if you can't do the Patreon thing or you just don't feel like it, I get it. That's fine. But if you could go on Apple Podcasts and
Leave us a review.
yeah, a little 5-star review, man. Just
Something.
take,
Yeah,
take
there was not one this week.
a minute
No,
out of your
earlier.
life. That's all I'm asking. It's not a lot. 1 minute. You got lots of minutes in your life. There's minutes
We
galore.
say, me and Mel do. We get so excited. Me and her. She just picked
I
up
did.
her phone, but I'd looked earlier, and I didn't want to kind of let you get there.
That's fine. I
We got
like to find out on my own,
Well,
too.
the funnest was that we've had it twice, I think, where there was 2 reviews, so we
Yes.
don't have to tussle over who's going to read the review.
So do Apple
Because
and
it's
Mel
so
a favor.
fun.
Yeah. This week, you be the 2 people. You're going to be one of the 2. All right.
That's right.
And just leave a review and say, "Hey, I love No Simple Road. This is cool. These guys are great. This is a podcast. Blah blah blah." blah. And then to next week, we'll read those 2 on the show, and you can know
That'd
that
be
you're
actually
like,
be a
one-
funny
"What?"
review.
What?
I said we'd be like, what?
Oh, yeah, we would be.
We
like
got
that.
2 reviews.
So yeah, Apple Podcasts, that review does something to the algorithm and it shows us up in other people's feeds, and that's a way that we can spread the mycelial network of No Simple Road.
And if you want to call the tepid line is where you can just you can leave us a silly that we get a lot of silly messages. You can tell us a story, a trip, whatever you want to. The
Yeah,
tepid
trip
line
report.
Is 971-808-1524. That number again is 971-808-1524. Operators are standing by. Yeah. You could you could tell us a story about your pet chinchilla, or your football when it got popped, or the first time you ever went in a hot air balloon.
All right, Apple.
movie reviews,
I mean, Aaron,
anything.
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you, Apple.
And-
You didn't do
and-
anything.
Yeah, Apple.
I was trying to
Yeah,
get Aaron
Apple.
to keep.
What are you doing, man? And anyway, that's it. So we're gonna get to the interview now.
You think?
You ready? Without further ado, the No Simple Road crew gives you
Gordon White.
All right.
All right. Hey, Gordon. How's it going,
Hey,
man?
how you doing?
I'm good, man. Are you in Tasmania?
Yeah.
So is it today or tomorrow there today?
It's 10 a.m. on a Monday morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, happy Monday to you.
Thanks very much.
Gordon, we were just talking a little bit before I started rolling, and that things are heavy, man. And the world is in a very strange position. Our consciousness is in a very precarious position. And I recently listened to an appearance you did on Greg Carlwood's podcast, the Higher Side Chats. And you really offered some solid, real knowledge as to what's going on and where we're at right now. And I really, really felt like I needed to reach out to you so that we could bring that to the people that are listening to our show, man. One of the things that struck me with the appearance that you had on Greg's show was you brought up the fact that we are in a field war, in a war against connection and physical consciousness. Can you talk a little
I'll
bit
just
about that?
interrupt. Yeah. I wouldn't say the field is under assault.
Okay.
One which is different to us being in a field war, because one of the ways you respond to that is to not fall into the world story of war. You lose immediately at that point, right?
Right.
So the living field is absolutely under assault. but there's I had him on my show last year. He's a really fascinating thinker that I've spent a lot of time sitting with his ideas, Dr. Bayo Akomolafe. And he says, what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis?
Ooh.
And it is. And he has this whole field of post-activism. And it's typically around environmental stuff and so on, but it works anywhere. So the same thinking that got us here is not going to get us out.
Right.
And we know that. We actually know that. And it's funny because it's simultaneously very easy and very challenging to take that step, right?
Right.
Because if you fall into the language of war, like listen to what we're talking about, suppressing a virus, fighting this battle, everything we do is in a world story of conflict and war. And Charles Eisenstein's another thinker that I spend a lot of time sitting with his ideas, says that, do you think you're going to win in a war against that?
Right.
In a war against Western civilization, everything about it, the capitalism, the military, the what have you, like it's not a good game. Let's not operate from a story of separation or a story of war. But yeah, what in aggregate, what we're experiencing is an assault on the living field, right? And how we respond to that requires sitting with that sort of idea. What if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis?
Right.
Wow.
I think there's a difficult piece in that, especially for those of us that have grown up in the United States, is that we are not taught to think outside of that paradigm, and there's no plan. There's no rubric for us to move forward with.
Yeah.
And
it's not even not taught. You're just bathed in it from birth, right? So when I was still in London, I used to work for Time Out. So I was part of the group that took the magazine free in New York and so on. So I spent a lot of time in the US for work. And the difference between just messaging at an airport or the news or something, and it's not like the BBC is great,
right.
But the difference between the two is really stark. So I have American friends, or they used to, come visit, and our signs down here in the Huon Valley in Tasmania, because it's cold down here in the winter, right? Not like 5 feet of snow cold, but we get ice on the roads and that kind of stuff. So our signs kind of just have a slippery car, and it says "when frosty." And my Americans were like, "Oh, that's Australia's so casual." And I'm like, "Why would that sign say in the US?" And it would say "danger, frost."
Yes.
And that kind of assault, that fear, that like attack on your amygdala every time you turn on the television, even in what is supposed to be healing spaces, like in medicine, it's wars on things. It's this assault, and the West has that everywhere, but the US specializes in it, right? And so it's particularly challenging for you guys in that context, because it's not just you weren't taught it. It's like trying to teach a fish about water. It's
you're
really
in
challenging.
it. Yeah. And so we're presented with a situation that we're in right now where it's, at least for us that are alive right now and in our generation, this is unprecedented. And, and so there's a lot of us that have lived outside the norm, at least in consciousness wise, and following that was not an issue. But now we are at odds with each other, because I was talking to Melanie last night in the car about this. There's the left and the right, and there doesn't seem to be any allowance for any other viewpoint outside of that. And I'm just wondering, like, is there any advice that you can give from somebody that's not from here? How can we move past that programming of like, well, if you disagree with what I say, then you're on the other side automatically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nazis all around us.
Right.
Yes.
So there's another thinker I had on the show last year, James. He has his own podcast called Hermetics, and he's very into accelerationist thought, which is this kind of idea, at least left accelerationism, by a now deceased British academic called Mark Fisher. and to sort of boil it down, accelerationism. I'm not an accelerationist, but there's some useful medicine in it, and in particular, something James said on the show, which was, no one is happy with the direction we're going, and we're getting there faster. So Nancy Pelosi's not happy. Trump certainly isn't happy. I'm sure, Bill Gates isn't happy. Wherever you want to land on how you understand this moment, no one is happy with the direction it's going, and we're getting there faster, right?
Right.
Yes.
So I have a few axioms. That's what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis. No one is happy with the way things are going, and we're getting there faster. The two that I sort of begin with when you go, okay, so if you're being yelled at by a Twitter mob or something, you just kind of sit there, and the next one, and I think this is important because it is unprecedented, not just in contemporary history, never in the history of the world has something like have billions of people been locked up at the one time, right? Like it's never happened. So the next one is allow this moment to transform you, or more specifically, don't resist the transformation of this moment, because if you do, it will destroy you. Like it will destroy your life. To fall into the anger and the hate, and also to realize it's not coming back. You can, if you're sitting at home eating Dorito dust, waiting for an experimental gene therapy, I don't have a lot of confidence in your medium-term future, right?
Right.
So there's actually a bravery in that, a bravery in looking at the moment from a place of coherence, right? Because responding to the crisis by yelling at people on Twitter or eating Dorito dust and waiting for, an experimental gene therapy is part of the crisis. So what do we do? And it's literally showing up to that. And a big part of it is the thinking that causes crises, right?
Right.
Is this planning interventionist thinking. It is 5-year plans. It is war on drugs. It is this kind of imposing on an unknowable future a grid and that it must conform to. That thinking gives us ecological crises, and it gives us lockdowns, and it gives us all of that, right? So it's about how you show up to the moment without falling into that world story. And again, it's simultaneously, it's easy once you see it. It is effortless. You can do it now. Listening to this, you can take a deep breath and sit with what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis, and no one is happy with the way things are going, and we're getting there faster. So what do we do when doing is fraught? And it's sort of removing or effortlessly kind of stepping away from that world story.
And it also seems to me that one of the key things that's come out of it, at least for us, is a renewed sense of importance on conversation and connection. Not that it wasn't important before, but because
maybe it was taken for granted.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And
we didn't realize how important it was because we had it. Now that we have to really go out and grab it, now we're like, whoa, the people that we just, accidentally met in our everyday life that we had these great connections with, we're not getting that. So we have to go out and find people such as yourself that are raising the bar on thought itself. Instead of having that Dorito, and I love what you said, the way that we respond to crisis is the crisis. Yeah, we're, oh my God, this is going to happen, or we don't have enough of this, or we need more toilet paper, or whatever.
So to fall into like fear and anger, how is that? When the problem is fear and anger, how is adding more fear and anger to it making? What do you think? It's funny when you describe it like that. I say, what do you think is going to happen?
right.
So, what do you think?
Well,
it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sure we're all broadly aligned on. You can have an opinion on the way things are going, right? But don't operate from it, because there's a bravery and coherence that comes from just showing up to the moment and seeing it for what it is, rather than for what you want it to be. You can fall into the world story of terror of a deadly virus that's going to kill anyone, or you can fall into the world story of complete overreaction and or whatever, or even worse, go further out and go to Stop the Steal or something.
Right.
None of that is. You can. That's an area of opinion, but it's not a good place to operate from tactically because it's happening, and the moment isn't just one side is right and one side is wrong. The moment is these sides are polarizing away from each other and causing it, right? So you can either be part of that energy or you can step up above it. And just coming back to the potency of conversations, it's like having any health crisis, right? And this is what I mean about allow this moment to transform you. We took human contact for granted,
Right.
and now we don't, and now we value it. And now we actually, well, I will never, whatever happens over the next few years, and unfortunately the worst is yet to come on a macro basis. I will never in my life, however long I live, take it for granted again.
No.
And so that's part of the allow this moment to transform you. And also, consequently, things like seek out more authentic human contacts, seek out better conversations. Like I stopped using Facebook a decade ago, but I stopped using Twitter last month. And there goes doom scrolling, and it's been amazing, right? I'm still talking to the same amount of people, Telegram, shows like this, what have you, but it's more medicinal. Like this is the kind of more authentic contact than just, I don't know, doom scrolling and liking a tweet. That's still human contact, but it's gross.
It's gross and it doesn't help. You feel emptier than when you went in for whatever scroll you were wanting to do, the doom scroll, oh, maybe I want to look at so-and-so's page or whatever. You don't feel better. You're mad that she lost 5 pounds. You're upset. Like, you know what I'm saying is the comparison,
It's like Dorito dust.
Yeah.
It is Dorito dust.
It's just
Yes.
like,
It is nutrient-free,
Yes.
carcinogenic
Mental food.
conversation replacement.
Yes.
Yeah. And, one of the things that's come to light, at least for me, in this, there was a lot of noise before. There was a lot of motion and noise and movement and everything happening. And then this was like a crucible. This became the crucible because now I'm sitting with myself and faced with my opinions and my own misconceptions about shit and how I saw the world and versus how I see it now and what was important before versus what's important now.
Yeah.
And those things are so fundamentally different at this, 10 months or whatever into the game that I'm like, going outside in the morning and just putting my hand on the dirt at this point is like medicine. Offering some tobacco back to the planet. Here you go. That's medicine. Where before I was moving 1,000 miles an hour, I wouldn't have even, maybe not have even seen that had this not occurred. So I guess that is looking on the bright side of it. But you just said something a second ago I want to go back to, and you said the worst is yet to come. And one of the things that I love that you do is the astrological, digging into the astrology of things.
Language.
Yeah. And can you unpack that a little bit for the people that are listening? Because I kind of know what you're talking about, but they don't.
Sure. So with what we're just talking about, you like allowing this moment to transform you is what you're actually doing there, Aaron, when you're like, I wouldn't have made offerings to spirit or just taken a few moments to be in that awareness each day if this kind of stuff hadn't happened. So that's a really good example of it. And the other piece, which we mentioned, we should come back to, part of allowing the moment to transform you is grief. And I went through that last year, and I know Mel said still grieving, and that's cool. Show up to the grief because that's part of the transformation. I lost a bunch of stuff last year. My grand plans, like I worked, 20 years for a career, and it gets to a point and it's gone, right?
Yep.
And so I knew that this is a longer process and that's never coming back. It's not like, guess I'll do it in 2021. It's like, no, that you can grieve that.
It's done.
It's not coming back, right? And people need to, that's about showing up to the moment. There are things that you wanted to have happen that aren't going to happen, and you should grieve them because otherwise they'll just stay in your body and you don't need that moving forward.
Right.
So those are the two pieces before we get to when I say the worst is yet to come.
Yeah.
I offer the sort of cycle model prediction in the context of letting this help people who are listening grieve. You have permission to grieve the things that you wanted to have happen that aren't going to happen. And don't hold on to the right kind of hope, which is it does get better. And if you allow this moment to transform you, it will get better, right? So a thing that Alberto Villoldo says, which I think is really useful, is imagine right now as a grand experiment performed by the cosmos, and she's tipped all of mankind into it. And the experiment is to find out what is the best way to live now. What is the best way of being on an earth that certainly has challenges, ecological and so on? What is the best way to live right now? And if you aren't part of that experiment, you are part of the control group. And you don't want to be part of the control group for this experiment, right?
Right.
You want to be part of the experiment, which means you don't know what's going to happen. This is about responding to the crisis in a way that isn't part of it. It's staying present to short-term thinking and not 5-year plans and all the rest of it. But you do need to understand that it's happening. And so it's in that context that I'm very interested in cycle models for a bunch of reasons. Astrology is a cycle model, but there are economic cycle models, there are historical cycle models, and there used to be, like astrology itself, kind of in the 20th century poo-pooed because we were still under the deranged, idiotic, materialist, naturalist way of thinking that gives us stuff like capitalism and empires, which is that time is some grand march of progress into an ever and better world, right? And the story of empires and science and capitalism run on that, right? We get our techno-solutionism from it, we get all of that. And it's garbage. Like no one who's done 5 days of history at a high school level will fall for it, but it culturally kind of wasn't in the air. And what happened in the early 21st century is that computing power got to a level that allowed for big data analytics, which is, seeing patterns in large data sets. And what do you know? Cycles came back, right? Yeah. So it's funny because they're everywhere else in the cosmos. They're there in seasons, they're there in planets, they're there in atoms, they're there in waves of all kinds, electromagnetic, what have you. Like a waveform is a cycle, right? Like,
right.
That's the same as this, right? You're still hitting the same points. It's just characterized this way. And so we started to see it again in economics and human civilization because of big data. So that's the kind of, so I have what I call a blended cycle model, which relies on less so Kondratiev waves, but things like fourth turning. Certainly Martin Armstrong's economic confidence model, he built this incredible AI that feeds in data from everything, right? Really a remarkable guy. I think he's like the Giordano Bruno of cycle. Okay. And that plus I'm blessed to know some very talented astrologers, which is good because it means I don't have to get that deep into it because it is a lifelong study, right? So I'm blessed to kind of be able to blend these cycle models. And even without that map for the near-term future, the inertia of what has happened hasn't hit the wall yet. So it's almost like you're in a car accident in slow motion and your head hasn't hit the windscreen yet. And the head is Western culture. Like what happened in 2020 hasn't finished happening. And the inertia of everything that we've done means that the worst is yet to come, whether you think that's a prediction or like it's hard to call it a prediction when you're talking about a slow motion car crash, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually the inertia is in play and can't be stopped.
It's looking at the data and being able to extrapolate the outcome.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Well, not even outcome.
Or not conclusion either.
Scenarios.
So, okay.
What you have is a range of scenarios, and your job, showing up to the moment, is to have a response rather than a reaction to each of them. Because the inertia is still in play, and it could, like, on one end, Mad Max, right? On one end, it's like we're shivving each other for cans of crab meat,
Right.
And on the other end, it's like, well, okay, so we ended up with a non-totalizing UBI digital currency, which we're not going to, but there's a range of scenarios from actually that was a rough couple of years. but here we are in a new way of doing things that are kind of not too bad or what have you. Somewhere in the middle is typically where these things land.
Right.
But you need to be like, okay, so what's to plan for 6 weeks of supply disruption is not to expect it to happen, right? So I have a presentation in the members area of the website, and I use a line like, the sea lies in wait for the unwary, but she stalks the reckless. And it is reckless to think that won't happen.
Yes.
It might be a 5% probability, but it's reckless to pretend, especially with a family, that that's not going to happen. So what does that look like? Does that look like I need about 3 months of canned food, which lasts forever, and access to it? You need to literally scenario plan that by looking at the inertia of like, well, what is the health of my community? So how connected are we? Am I in an area of, urban violence? Am I in an area that is really remote, so it's not going to get so if we lose the grid, we're going to lose it for a long time here, and so on. It's individualized in the sense of what can we do? There are no universals. It's showing up to the moment and looking at what the trajectory or the inertia of what's happened might play out like in your context, right? So I'm in quite a good context from the perspective of pollution or violence because I live at the edge of the world. Like
right.
I'm closer to Antarctica than I am to the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm way
you're good when it comes to that. Yeah.
But that means I'm also at the absolute end of global supply chains. So if you look at the routes that require, I'll just use a preferred example, like the Glenfiddich whiskey, because I've been to the Glenfiddich distillery in Scotland. So every time I buy one down here, I'm like, I know where you came from and you have taken quite the journey to get here.
That's a long, strange trip. Yep.
Right. And there's dozens of trunks of that supply chain that are at risk for different geopolitical chaos and increasing risk. So how I scenario plan is different because I might be looking at, we're not going to get urban unrest in a town of a couple hundred people, but I might go months without supply from China and further afield because of where I am. Because it doesn't just have to get to Tasmania, it has to get to Australia and then through, right? So I'm at the end of the line. So I have different, and everyone, you need to start thinking like that. Well, when we look at the geopolitics and everything that's going on, how does that impact me? And that's kind of what the cycle models are for, right? So broadly speaking, 2021 is going to suck, but 2022 is going to be worse, probably because as we deal with what I would consider a technocratic hijack, it's not going to work, but they don't know that. They think that's reality. And there aren't enough people aware by design, like there aren't enough people aware of what's going on and the implications of it to stop it. So it's kind of like the good and the bad news is they don't succeed, but we have to live through their attempt and their failure.
We have to suffer the repercussion of a failed experiment.
Well, enough people will work it out eventually to stop it. So we get the up and the down of it. And as far as I can tell, looking at both the astrology and various cycle models, we're still on the up for most of 2020. It depends where you are. Europe gets it in the neck this year. In the model, Europe needs to consider the sort of permanent lockdown currency cancellation thing as probably in play for 2021. But 2022 is sort of when the whole thing comes down, which is the good and the bad news. So this is like showing up to the moment. It's like, well, what are my scenarios for how this works and to be present with it and not to, and this comes back to how we respond to the crisis. Like the grief, like you can allow yourself some fear and some anger or whatever, but don't operate from there, right? Because you can't, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And even if everyone realizes today, okay, do you know what? Let's not do this. Let's not do Build Back Better or whatever. We're still going to deal with the inertia, right?
Right.
And the time is past for doom scrolling and checking on various different machinations and announcements multiple times a day. The time is past, right?
What?
Thank you, Gordon, for saying that.
Yeah.
That just needed to be said to the whole world, and I'm glad you said it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I did it, but leave that in 2020.
Okay.
Oh, that's
because, you
that's
know, we're here.
great. That's perfect right there, Gordon. Thank you for saying that. Leave that in 2020.
What is a city without its music?
The legacy of the New York Philharmonic is incredible.
Nearly 2 centuries of history. That's a lot of music and a lot of stories.
I was sitting on stage for the very first time thinking, I can't quite believe this is happening.
Join me, Jamie Bernstein, as we explore the history of the New York Philharmonic. It's the NY Phil story made in New York, a podcast about a city, its people, and their orchestra. Listen wherever you get podcasts.
Leave it there.
You can continue. I just had to point that because
Okay,
it was so
Well, so
profound.
so my friend Austin, who I do the half yearly astrology shows with, says, and it's true, like the great medicine of a cycle model is this too shall pass. If you study astrology, you're dealing with long timelines and short timelines, and some days are good, some days are bad, some years are good, some years are bad, right? So this too shall pass is medicine. You can show up to the brave, you go, this too shall pass, but we have to go through it. And that again isn't necessarily available in like the machine metaphor, the materialist naturalism, because it just assumes that whatever the current conditions are remains on a trajectory, and that's not true, right? So the good news, or the medicine in a cycle model that says things are going to get worse before they get better, is that they get better.
It doesn't just, the psycho model doesn't just end.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of, and it's why it's sort of allow this moment to transform you, is you have to be the thing that you want that comes next. This is what Alberto Villoldo is talking about. This whole world story is ending in a very material and real way in the next 2 years. So be the thing that comes next. What does that look like? We were talking about authentic human connection and doing daily spirit awareness exercises and recognition of country and just the livingness of the cosmos. And what can you do to support the living field? Because that is the thing that comes next. I'm very interested in Charles Fort in general, but he had a model of human understanding and basically development of knowledge in the cosmos, which he called dominance, right? So this incredible man, just weird, funny genius in the early 20th century, wrote, and he spent years in the New York Public Library and sometime in London at the British Library and so on, going through historic and newspaper accounts around the world of anomalous events like ants falling from the sky or fish falling from the sky or apparitions or so on, right? So the Book of the Damned is incredible and funny, and it came out almost 100 years ago this year, something like that. Anyway, he has this idea when he looked at history that things actually, it's not the Kuhnian model of the structure of scientific revolutions. A couple of reasons, because that's actually caught that's not a cycle model. It's actually almost like capitalist propaganda. It came out to sort of sing the praises of modernism against the Soviet Union. But the Kuhnian idea is that it's almost like expanding spotlights. So we know this much about the world, and then we learn another thing, and so we know this much about the world. And it's sort of this progressive increase of knowledge, but it's not. That's like a scientific framework, right? So Fort got there first, and he got there before postmodernism, and it's kind of both. And he says that actually things become true in different dominants, right, or eras. So we had a dominant of religion, and the sort of principal epistemology there was authority of telling you things. Right. And that was, and notice that when we got the dominant of science, which was next, things that were true in the dominant of religion were actually not true in the dominant of science, right? Because science came to ask for proof of some of the claims of the church fathers, right? So it actually was fundamentally different truths in the dominant of science. And he said, which is incredible at the time, because it was peak science. He said in the early 20th century, the dominant of science is ending. And the one that comes next is the dominant of wider inclusions. And I call it the dominant of witchcraft. And how they work is that at the edge of a dominant, picture it like a circular wall around a town, anomalous facts that the dominant can't explain start to come in, and you knock a few of them out, but eventually you have to sort of ignore them, and then eventually it overwhelms it. So that's what happened with the dominant of science moving into religion, right? Earth was created in 6 days. Well, geology has a problem with that. And so all these facts that the churches could knock away to start with, then eventually they couldn't, and it swamped the dominant. Now, why Fort saw the dominant of wider inclusion showing up was all this anomalous data, all these ghosts and telepathy and bugs and falling from the sky and all this kind of incredible psychic wondrous stuff, which is not allowed to be real in the dominant of science. And now here we are in the 21st century, and the dominant of science has some medical boundaries of materialism and so on, which are failing at the moment too. So we have the psi data, and we have political authority failing, and we have medicine failing, as in the world story of medicine, this one bug, one drug model and all the rest of it. It's failing, and it will be overwhelmed by this. And the thing that comes next is a dominant where we return to the awareness that the cosmos is alive. And that has implications for politics. That has implications for how we understand health and medicine and so on. This is happening now. It'll take about 100 years, but that's what we're experiencing, right? And so when you want to be the thing that comes next, be that. Be the thing that operates from an understanding that the human is not the center of the universe and the universe is alive.
So based on what you just said, truth changes. Truth doesn't remain the same.
It literally changes. Yeah. And that's why he got to postmodernism before 40 years before the postmodernists did. He was actually a genius. Like, people think it's kind of like this wacky writer. He was a genius, and it does. And truth would change in a universe. So I'm an animist, and animism doesn't live in a formed universe. Animism lives in a universe that is perpetually forming. So a formed universe is one of revealed religions and of science, right? Like, here is a thing created by God and it's in place. So it's the same thing with science. It's a fixed thing. But in a living universe that is not evolving is almost the wrong word. Experiencing itself is the right word.
Right.
It's in a state of forming, perpetual forming rather than already formed. And that would be consistent with the idea that truths literally change, because we think a truth is fixed because we think the universe is finished. When did the universe finish?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Can we just stop right there for one moment? We think the universe is finished, but we see it changing constantly.
Right in front of you.
And back to those cycle models, just if you believe in winter, you got to believe in spring. So just that right there, what makes us all come under the spell of these thoughts that are dead? It's like a dead thought. Yeah, it is. I think it is a spell. I think that is I think the entity behind it, the archon or whatever you want, is the archon of empire. It's the archon of the machine metaphor. So about 300 and change years ago, we decided that the universe was a really intricate dead machine gradually running out of steam like our trains. And that's dumb. That's like the dumbest idea mankind has ever had. And we've had some doozies, right?
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
Everything is a flow on from that. Like I talk about, we need to go upstream to where the first kind of Cartesian head trauma happened and address that. And it's this fundamental, do you think you live in a universe that is a dead machine, or do you think you live in a universe that is alive? And when you get there, everything changes in how you respond to it. Everything in this world story is coming to an end, right? It's the one bug, one drug, Rockefeller medicine. It's the fixed universe. So that's where we do it. That's what I mean. Like, we be present to the moment and be the thing that comes next. And the thing that comes next is that return to a living awareness.
That,
so for somebody who doesn't know what that means, like, how can I be the thing that comes next? How do I enter that? When that language changes, what then?
Well,
at least one thing.
Leading question, Mel. Are you asking for a plan and a map? Because
I guess maybe a thinking map and a thinking plan.
So it is to not have them, right? So coming back, because that's in the machine metaphor.
Okay.
It is based on on the confidence that you know how the universe operates.
Yeah.
And that's what got us here.
Yes.
So the whole, what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis? One of the things that Bayo Kamalafe said and he says it's haunted him since then. He was on a call talking about ecological crises and so on, and he was talking about African responses to it, and some British scientist was like, that's all well and good, but the science is settled, and he kind of realized, so you still it's still imperialism, you still think this is true, but you're kind of like gonna happily let us pretend over here, and that's deep empire stuff, right?
Right.
And he said words that continue to haunt him: the situation is urgent, we must slow down. And that's a response to crises that comes out of African thought. So he talks about that, and he talks about making sanctuary, because what we can do now is make sanctuary. We can make space, and it is physical place, because I don't like the word space that much. We can make sanctuary in a physical sense. We can do it with distributed rather than digital communities, like I have and like you have. And sanctuary is a place of unruly collaborations. So it is making connections of and between things and creativity to no specific direction. It is because we thinking we know what comes next is part of the old thinking. Experimenting and we're being called to have responses, to respond in a multiple way to this moment. And so we don't know what that is. You sit with that. Okay, cool. So it's not this sort of projecting into the future plan. It's right. to collaborate and be in unruly multi-species connections in place, in sense of making sanctuary place, like to do this within sanctuary, because that's where if we knew the thing that came next, it would not be the thing that comes next, right?
Yes.
We have to be the laboratories that grow it, and that's the making sanctuary bit. That's a thing we can do now, and that's a thing we can do now, regardless of what the prevailing politics are, regardless of whether you're allowed to leave your house or leave your country or what have you. Making sanctuary is a thing that can happen regardless of the conditions and needs to happen, right? Yes. So that's the sort of what can we do when doing is fraught.
Well, you just you really put it in perspective, because those tendencies hide everywhere, of thinking, like you just said it. But then the creating sanctuary, that is a tangible thing that can be done. And what you said, just it shakes it up. Like even some of your questions, no, that is not right either. Let's start again. Like, nope, the test is wrong. You need to do it again. Do it again. I
think it's part of what you're saying too, is like, if I have a plan in place right now where there's no frame of reference to go on anyway, then I'm working towards an end that I'm going to just fuck it up anyway, trying to get there. But if I'm available in the moment, then I'm not at odds with that field. I'm in
Correct.
it. I'm in it.
And importantly, you can do things to contribute to that living field. You kind of, Aaron, you mentioned, offering tobacco to place spirits and so on. That's a great one. What I said to Greg, because Greg and I are friends, so I've been chatting to him sort of privately for a while. And he started last summer in San Diego, and they did, like he and the wife grew tomatoes and cucumber and so on. And he kind of realized, like, I'm not going to live on this in the Mad Max scenario. I'm like, if people want the tomatoes and they have more guns than me, they get the tomatoes, right? And that's not why you grow them. And you guys are heading into spring, so this is important. One of the things I can tell you about making sanctuary is that it involves supporting and developing the living field wherever possible. And that means growing things. And that means you grow them, because if you didn't grow them, that being wouldn't exist. So it comes from that attitude rather than like, better stock up on tomatoes for the apocalypse. It's not the right way of doing it. You're still growing tomatoes, but I know a lot of people last year, when they panic bought seeds and started growing, and did realize that they're delicious, but not exactly a high calorie survival food,
right?
The tomato or the lettuce, right? And so this is a thing when we're talking about making sanctuary. You're not going to live for 6 months on the herb garden in your balcony but it wouldn't exist if you didn't do it. And if you do it, if you show up to that activity as a sense of supporting the living field, you are you're in that current. And so it's not just growing things, although I mean I'm a permaculture designer, so I like that. It's what can you do that supports the living field? And that's helping neighbors. That's having authentic and nourishing conversations, digitally or not. It's not contributing to the field of war. We know the ways of being in sanctuary. We just don't know, like it's not the doing, it's the being within it. And you can feel it. It's like, does this support or take away from the living field?
Well, it's also macrocosmic and microcosmic as well, and the whole as above so below thing, because as you're doing that, you're also that garden is also an expression of your inner space or your inner being, and you're planting seed for something to grow, and it's a conversation you can have with yourself to remind you that you don't need to be in that fear. And
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it also, so I have which you put in the show notes if you want, a post last month I wrote called Make Sanctuary, and it links to some of Bayo Akomolafe's thoughts, some of the things we're talking about. So it's kind of an easy, clean way. If you're listening, go to runesoup.com, find Make Sanctuary. It's from January. You'll easily find it. But one of the things that's so important about the process is to realize that making sanctuary decenters the human. So the old way of thinking that is going away is that we are the center of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. But there are other things, and it's thoughts, and it's animals, and it's historic prejudices, and all these things that are flowing into this moment, right? This is why responding to the crisis with a human-centric solutionism is part of the crisis. And you become very aware that for all our traumas and dramas and fears and angers that are going on the planet at the moment, they're all human, and in that sense, small. The ocean doesn't care, and a tomato will teach you that. Yeah. A tomato will grow, yeah, and it will grow better if you show up to it without that fear. By the way, like this is settled science as far as I'm concerned, but plants will respond to your field. So right. You'll learn that you're actually embedded in a living universe. But there's just the deep wisdom that it's human nonsense, really.
Set break.
You
know, it's always good in the midst of a conversation to stretch your legs, stretch your mind,
and then take this time to go get a new T-shirt.
That's what I'm going to do.
Where should I go to get a new T-shirt?
ShopTourbus.com or at ShopTourbus on Instagram. What am I going to find over there, Apple?
You're gonna find. You're gonna find Grateful Dead inspired T-shirts. They take lyrics and they're really cool. The designs is not anything you see anywhere else. They're kind of cryptic. It's a puzzle in a way. I never get more comments on a shirt than when I wear those, because some people know and they get it, but other people, they love them.
If you know, you know.
And they think it's something like My Lazy Lightning. People are always like,
the best.
They're like, oh, electric, like a lazy Gatorade, because they see the symbol. And then it's good icebreaker because they ask you what it is, and then you get to explain to them the Grateful Dead world in a sense.
Also, these amazing shirts aren't going to just come to you like in a Mylar bag. They're going to come in a hand-designed, one-of-a-kind box.
One of a kind.
With a Grateful Dead lyric on the inside. And also there's like all these extra little things. They're surprises. I'm not going to blow the surprise.
There's lots of intention that goes into each and every one of these boxes and designs.
And if you're one of those lucky few, you're going to get an official bootleg with a pencil to spool it in case it comes apart.
A real live cassette tape that came from somebody's bootleg collection in the Grateful Dead family. So that's pretty cool, man. Not only are you going to get what you ordered, but you're going to get some love along with it, and a lot of intention, and a lot of really cool designs. So go check them out at shoptourbus.com online or at shoptourbus on Instagram. And when you check out, put in the promo code No Simple Road, and they are going to give you free shipping. So they are hooking up the No Simple Road family with a little bit of love and a little bit of extra. And then after you order your shirt, go to
Define Premium Cannabis.
Everybody's sleeping over here. Come on, wake up.
Dylan
I'm sorry. I was choosing my bud when that came up. So
what's going on? There's 2 locations. I know there's one in Hillsboro, one in Forest Grove. What are you doing out there, Apple?
Well, out there, we are constantly tending to people's needs. If you have an ache, a pain, if you need, take care of your head. We all need to do that, especially in this time.
Absolutely.
You come out and visit us. We will get you taken care of. There's a lot to know about the cannabis industry, a lot of
It's
products.
changing all the time.
All the time. We'll take our time to make sure you get the right medicine. Your dabbables, vapables, smokables, we have them all. So come out, you visit us, make sure you tell us you listen to the show. You're going to get 10% off your purchase. That's each time you come in. Remember to mention it's a 10% off. We'll give you a free t-shirt on your first visit, and we will get you taken care of.
And if you go to the Hillsboro location Monday through Friday during business hours and
That's
you
where
ask
I'm
for
at.
Apple, he will come out of the back dressed like a ninja. And he will sneakily come over to you and pick the bud that is perfect for your life and match you with the cannabis product that you need. So go to either location, the one in Hillsboro or the one in Forest Grove. Tell them you listen to No Simple Road. Like Apple said, you're going to get 10% off and a free t-shirt. And make sure you take care of yourself, you guys, because it's important to take care of your head, especially right now. Not like it wasn't important before. It's always
But
important to
especially
take care of
now.
yourself, but you should take care of yourself even more right now. So we're going to get back to the show. I think set break is ending. Lights are coming on. Here we go. You bring back a experience I had. We were at a venue here in Washington, actually, called the Gorge Amphitheater, and it's this beautiful amphitheater. There's a river behind it. There's a gorge right behind it, and the sun is setting, and this band is playing, and just drummers at the time, and I was sitting on the ground and got this message of like, what are you worried about? I am so much bigger than anything you can possibly imagine. Your worries are so small, and I've got this handled, basically. And that's what you're talking about, reconnecting to that thing that speaks those words.
We don't. So I'm doing some shamanic energy training at the moment, and there's some decoupling exercises that bring you back to that awareness that you are held by Pachamama or whatever, right? And the funny thing is, you're never not held. So the energetic practices are designed to kind of decouple the fight or flight response, so you can sort of fall back into that state of being held. And it's been really interesting for me to kind of learn how to do that, because when I was on an ayahuasca dieta in the jungle now 2 years ago, because it was 2019, one of the peak experiences that happened wasn't even in ceremony. Although to some extent the whole thing is ceremony,
Right.
but you would be in your tumbo, and the shaman's helpers would come and deliver you a very small bowl of rice and in this case a river fish, because you never really knew if you were getting protein what it was as for the time you're in the jungle. And it becomes very obvious when you're in the jungle on an ayahuasca dieta that you should do like a sort of like saying grace, right? Like just give thanks for what's in front of you from a nourishment perspective. And I went to do this for this fish, and I had a moment, a transcendent moment. I've been doing magic for 20 years, where I slipped into the realization, or rather Pachamama told me, or what have you, that this is all me. So it's like you can't, the thanks is going in this circular direction because she is me and the fish and the jungle. And it was this moment of never not connected. It's just that we can't see it, right? And that's kind of what a post-human approach, what Bayo is talking about, is that there is medicine in falling into that. Because it was one of the peak experiences of my life, that I was the fish. There was no distinction between myself and this fish I was about to eat, and because Pachamama was all of it.
Right.
And it was amazing. And so it's kind of like, which the drumming thing sounds incredible, by the way.
Oh,
but that is true. That is, as far as I'm concerned, a capital T true thing. And we can, it's definitely harder at the moment, but we can find that.
That's the thing right there, Gordon. You just said it. That's the reason I reached out to you. Because those experiences, again, were something I even hate to say this out loud. I took them for granted.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah, man. I took it for
Yeah.
granted. And like now we're in this open air prison. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh shit, I may not be able to gather with my people for a very long time. And I need to find that here and now. But then there's 18 million screens screaming fear at you, and the radio is calling doom and gloom, and everywhere you look the sky is falling, and it's like, wow, okay, how do I find that place again? And that's been the rub.
It has. And I mean, I was, after that experience, I'm like, I'm going to go back to the jungle every year because I found a group that went at the same time. And that was one of the things I grieved last year, was realizing, because obviously I canceled the flights, and I spoke to the organizer, and she at the time was like, oh, are you worried about the virus? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not that I'm not canceling, it's you're not going. Trying to tell her that much. I'm like, you should cancel too. You know, like, I just like, no. Like, I have doctor friends in Canada. This is not that serious an illness. And I'm like, again, we're talking about two different things.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is you're not going, and you're not going next year either. Right. And I was saying it nicely. I wasn't like,
Right.
but that's one of the things I grieved, coming back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I took for granted that I was going to be able to be in ceremony with my shaman every year.
Yeah.
And I'm not even allowed out of the country, right? I'm in Australia, so I'm not going anywhere for a while, right? So that's a thing I grieved last year, and I'm sitting with and for the membership of Rune Soup, who are magically operant for the most part, we've spent a lot of time in the lead up to it anyway, so we're already quite good at it, but using these horrible platforms like Zoom to get to explore what distributed ceremony looks and feels like. So we're actually quite good at that now. So there are ways to do it. And another thing that I expect will happen, and it's part of the collapse of the op, is people, and I'm calling this the Coven Project. I think we're sort of at a 40 to 45%, maybe even 50% of people are aware that this is ridiculous and cannot go on, but they're too afraid to say anything, right?
That's weird.
So I'm calling it the Coven Project because I have involved tangentially in like experimental music groups in places like Melbourne and Britain and so on. And they're working at, and a friend of mine who's a premium member said, it's going to be like raves in the 90s again. It's going to be like covens gathering in secret. And that's one of the things that will happen, whether we want it to or not, in the near future. But it's a possibility that you should, without, telling people to break the law, although I'll just leave it there. Be aware that unruly collaborations like that are in the short and medium term future. And so there may be opportunities to do it. Like, speaking of Greg, he was talking about how in San Diego, when Newsom had everything locked up again, a bunch of bars and restaurants basically turned into speakeasies. So they had like a private messaging or email system. Obviously wasn't using things like Facebook, but the locals who are in the know would quietly show up. And that's the sort of responses that's almost a Make Sanctuary response. It's adjacent to it. It's certainly an agorist one, but showing up to the moment and realizing I'm not going to get to the jungle this year. I'm not going to get to the jungle next year. What does that change about the need for ceremony, and how do I sit with and support the living field? And it's different for everyone, but we won't do it unless we're kind of like, unless we show up to the moment.
Right.
Prior to 2019, what was your method of ceremony then?
Oh, for when it came, that 2019 was my first proper ayahuasca experience. Before I've considerable experience with high dose psilocybin and what have you from that perspective, but I had always resisted the kind of like, amongst my friendship group in London at the time, was like, hey, do you want to do ayahuasca? We bought a bottle from the dark web, and I'm like, no, that's not how I take this very seriously. That's not how I want to do it. And no judgment on people who do, but it didn't resonate with me.
Right.
So I wanted to do it right, and the opportunity showed up at a very significant moment for me. Right. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is obviously when and how I do it, and took to it, and that was going to be an annual trip.
But
I've been doing
it.
ceremony for 20 years.
I knew.
forms.
I was just wondering because you mentioned that, and it wasn't going to continue in that way. So
Yes, I also know a couple of people who, and we've got internal border closures as well, but there is a nascent community of lineaged ayahuasqueros and ayahuasqueras who've done the 2 years in the jungle to learn it in the kind of counterculture of Australia as well. So even if we can't leave the country, there are ways and means to do it authentically, right?
Sure.
Right.
And I have done that. I did that last year. Even before this happened, I just did that when we could travel and do things. It was very interesting because it was ayahuasca showing up, because I booked this beach house that is used for like Vogue living photo shoots, and so I found it on Airbnb. It's not like I operate in those circles. On a cliff.
your last year Vogue centerfold.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a Vogue face. Come on.
I knew from the moment you came on. Sorry.
Yeah, and so this beautiful house on the cliff tops in Victoria is the southern state above us. So looking over the Bass Strait, this kind of like wild and exciting and treacherous ocean. And ayahuasca showed up as the shaman called her down, and she knew me, but she's sort of like, "Is this for me?" I'm like, "It is," and she loved it. It was like, "This is my tent." And so ayahuasca in diaspora, because I've done it at what is effectively the Vatican of ayahuasca, right? But ayahuasca in diaspora was still authentic, but it was different. She delights in it.
Oh, wow.
It's not the jungle, but if you do it authentically and you do it right, like we spent a lot of money on that Airbnb because I'm like, no, this is a place of ceremony. I take this very seriously.
Right.
And she delighted in that. And so there are ways and means, and this is kind of like be the thing that comes next in the dominance of witchcraft by the end of the 21st century. And it's kind of important. I think this is one of the reasons she's doing it. Because the ayahuasca industry has grown so much, and there are very unethical practices, which you understand in economically depressed areas. So that, again, no judgment. We're actually going to need to grow the vine and the chacruna. And the chacruna is easy to grow, and that's, in fact, my shaman's involved in a lot of that. The vine is slower growing, and it needs to be grown intentionally. And so you can't kind of do it in the same way. You can't GMO the coffee vine, right?
No.
But that will happen. That is happening. There are experimental groups in climates that can allow it, like in Australia. And these are the things that are coming next. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I wondered that. I've had people around us offer the same thing. And I had the same reaction you did. Like, no, I'm not okay with that right now. Like you said, no judgment. But for me, I'm not. And that was forefront in my mind was like, if you take her out of the jungle, is she going to like smack you upside the head?
Well, yeah. I'll smoke DMT, but I won't like, if ayahuasca needs to be, if not necessarily in the jungle, then in ceremony with a lineage shaman.
Got it.
Especially if you're doing it for medicinal reasons, because if you are approaching the medicine as medicine, then it is not, this is the materialist naturalist thing, right? It's not the molecules in the brew, it's the ceremony. It's all of it. It's the spirits that work where it's the mapacho, it's the spirits that are called in, it's the ancestors of the lineage that are around your shaman as he or she is serving the medicine. It's all of it, right? And I experienced that when I went to the jungle. That's how it works, right? So it's sort of like, do you want to take? Would I take a menopause drug? Like, I mean, I'm sure it's not for me, right? Like it might exist somewhere for someone, but I don't have that condition, and I don't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not complete. So again, it's literally a no judgment thing, because I think DMT in a synthesized form is different, especially as the stuff that's available in Australia is typically doesn't come from ayahuasca anyway. It comes from other DMT products like acacia and so on.
Right.
So it's not actually. I can allow myself that. Not that I do it that often. It's happened a couple of times, but like I can allow myself that, and still be keeping my relationship with ayahuasca the way I think it should be.
Right.
What was the reason you needed the medicine, Gordon? If you care to say.
Trauma. Like, so I was in the beginning of 2019 We had an historic fire down here that was the worst fire Tasmania had since 1967, when hundreds of people died and so on. So this sort of 62,000 hectare fire got within 200 meters of the farm, which I had just effing bought. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Anyway,
shit.
bunch of magic. We doused it with a water dragon. You can find that story in the podcast. But
Okay.
that was really traumatic, and I lost some people who are very, not to death, but like breakup type stuff. I lost some people that were very close to me as a way of that. So I had like a PTSD and like a heart trauma and all this sort of stuff. I sort of got into the end of Q1 of 2019 going, I am wrecked. And a sort of person I distantly knew emailed and said, hey, we got some gaps on our Dieta group. Do you want to come? And I'm like, if my farm doesn't burn down,
Absolutely.
I will be there. And it didn't, so I went. But it was, and that was really good. That was it's when you go, well, it's how trauma works, right? But like I got to show ayahuasca, just like walk her through the memories, like this happened, mother, and then this happened, mother, and just doing that was like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the best when you can sit on mom's lap and just like tell her what happened. And
she's hyperdimensionally, weird way of saying it. I feel like she is the doctor for planet Earth. So
wow.
my experience with, and I mean it in the sense, because I don't have a lot of time for allopathic medicine, but there is, my experience of it was, there is in fact a corpus, like a medical corpus for the universe that she knows and she applies on the planet. Really weird. So you would ask her something and there was a sense of it, not like going to check the bookshelf, but also not like that. And to be kind of like multi-dimensionally aware of what it is you needed, because I like drugs, right? And so in the first night, I took a whole bunch of it and just was off in the spirit world and all the rest of it. And it was the second night she kind of pulled me back in as we were back in ceremony, or second ceremony, and started to work on what I'd come to have work on. And I'm like, why didn't we do this yesterday? And she said, yesterday you were off running with your brothers. And like, she just kind of knew that one of the things that I needed for my healing was a good trip, basically.
Aww.
And I did,
Wow.
and I loved it. But it was that kind of like, you were off running with your brothers. And she said it with that kind of motherly voice of understanding. It was incredible. And that was the night that everyone, the Maloka turned into a triage area. And everyone who, because you do that because it's an ordeal. It's not a holiday. You do that if there's a thing that you have come to her for. And it was really interesting because you're there with 20 people. And on the alternate days, you just sort of sit in the river and talk about what happened. And each night, everyone would have their version of the same thing happen. And it was night 2 that was the big thing that you came to heal. She showed up with her nurses, and I could see her doing that. I could see her in the Maloka with like spirit vision, moving person to person, with and without the shaman, fixing the things that people came to have healed. It was just life-changing. But the fact that she didn't do that on the first night was because part of my journey to healing was to be off, as she said, running with my brothers, like just playing in the spirit world.
go have fun. I'm going to let you have
That's
fun
what-
tonight.
yeah, that was the
Tomorrow
medicine.
we're going to do some work. Tonight, I had a similar, not similar, but that same doctor thing with DMT.
Yeah, sure. That's what you see what I mean. Like it's
Very much so.
Your experience of being healed is that there is actually almost like a body of medical literature for the universe. And I didn't expect that, because ours is wrong, right? But like I didn't expect that to be a kind of true experience. But there you go.
Yeah, well, at the time I was over 300 pounds and not healthy and
Not happy.
but went into this experience and it just grabbed me and it went, look, here's what's going to happen. Here's what your body's going to feel like when you don't weigh 300 pounds. Here's how you're going to get there. And it's already done. You got to just move through the space to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? It was like teaching me how to breathe and showing me yoga. At one point I was like this, sitting up, going, like, so that
Awesome.
I understand what you're talking about. And that kind of transformation, I think, is the universe responding to itself and not I don't think it wants to be broken. I don't see leaves growing all fucked up and falling on the ground. I see them growing healthy and getting the sun, and it takes care of itself.
Correct.
Yeah. So Gordon, you brought something up before we go. I want everybody that's listening to be able to find out more about you. And you brought up your school on runesoup.com. Can you explain a little bit about that for them?
Sure. So I call it a membership. It's definitely not a school,
Okay.
although each quarter we do classes on different kind of aspects of magic. So we've done like tarot, and we've done working with your ancestors. And this quarter, which has just begun, is angel magic. So and the members vote on the ones that we do. So it's a membership area. It has a whole bunch of other stuff. We do based on your time zone, different intention exercises and calls that have cured cancer and got people's houses and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lynn McTaggart's work on the field and the power of 8. We use that process, and it's transformative. So there's a whole bunch of different stuff that's in there. There's certainly courses, there's forums. We have our own end-to-end encrypted communication platform on a private server now, because that's what you have to have.
Right. Gotcha.
Yes, you do.
We may emerge onto a non-corruptible platform in like 2023, but I can't see this is kind of that same logic of like, well, Twitter's shit, should we go to Parler? No, that's worse. But also it doesn't it's not the right solve, because it's still just going to be the same hyper-monitored, risky, flimsy garbage, right?
Right.
So it's that kind of thinking. But people have you can kind of join and lean forward or lean back as much as you want, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. And otherwise the show is more or less weekly, and I would like to blog more, but I'm finishing a book, and it's all at runesoup.com.
And Gordon, I know this is a little late in the hour to ask, but like, just quickly before we go, or it doesn't have to be quickly, like what started you on this? Like how did you get from here? How did you get here?
Well, the glib answer is to, I don't know, make a lot of mistakes and be kind of patchy at planning. But when it comes to magic, it took me a while to kind of say this, but I would describe myself as an experiencer in the UFO sense. Like, I had a series of hag attacks when I was a child. So the sleep paralysis, witch thing and stuff, memories of needles. And it was interesting. It's all screen memories. So I was a kid, and I would feel like I was getting really, really small, to the point that the weave of the fitted sheet was like ship rope that was trapping me. And then I would have memories of needles, and also in amongst the ship rope, I saw like Romulan warbirds. So I'm like, that's interesting. Right? That's like a kid trying to process. Because if you look at the restriction needle spaceship, but it's a child's mind. It's sort of like what happened to Whitley Strieber, but
Right.
as a kid, right? So it's a child's mind trying to work through it, and that and the hag attack type stuff. But I've always been, and it's a big part of it. We do one of the courses, one of my favorites actually. We've done a journeying course, because dream work and journeying has been a big part of my practice forever. And I had these dreams that I don't remember, but I remember them being very, very potent and important when I was about 13. And and it was on a Friday night. So I woke up on the Saturday morning and stole some money from my mother's purse and walked down a couple of miles to what doesn't exist there anymore, because it doesn't exist anywhere, a really good independent bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a couple of what are provably terrible books on things like Wicca and Druidry and so on. Provably terrible now, but I didn't know. And I bought a packet of cigarettes, and I took those books and cigarettes, and I sat in a grandstand of a nearby rugby oval, and that was it.
You were
It's like
on.
I was home. So it was something that happened in the dream. And I've had people on the show who've done a lot of work with like hypnosis and regression and so on, going, do you want to regress to it? I'm like, I don't think I do.
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
I'm good.
With where it is, right?
Right.
So yeah, that was it for me. My mother's an energy healer. She wasn't at the time, but she had her own experiences. Funnily enough, my experience in magic kind of gave her the weird way of saying it. She's her own woman, but like gave her the permission to take that more seriously.
Yes.
And so on, right? I don't mean I gave her, you know what I mean by
I
that,
get
right?
you.
I
Yeah,
feel
So,
like that's something that you do, period. Not just for your mom, but you're, whether you realize it or not, are giving people permission by being so forthcoming, so intellectual, so honest. you're giving other people permission to be like, yeah, that is how I feel, or yeah, that is the direction I want to go. At least I'm feeling that right now. I mean, I've been in the spa industry and in energy work and yoga and for lots of my life, but especially 2020, there's been some kind of a weird lag, and I just feel like you bringing it up and talking about it is ushering in this kind of energetic permission, if you will.
Well, good. Thank you. That's definitely, I hope it has that effect. So good.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, Gordon, and you know, you don't know us, but you've done a lot for me, man. And I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Well,
And,
thanks. It's been a great discussion.
Yeah. And I
really
would love to
has.
have you on again at a later date when we have some, distance between right now and whatever is coming, so that we could talk about it a little bit. But just thank you, Gordon. And I know that the mission that I set out to do was served well today.
Yes.
Our listeners are gonna eat this up. So,
And I just wanted to say one thing. I'm sorry for talking
No,
so much.
Apple, shush.
Yeah.
I want to thank you
Still going.
for them and for me. I'm just sitting here with these two have been married 23 years. They've kind of walked down this path of like magic, and they're much more versed in a lot of things you talk about and stuff. Aaron brought me to one of my favorites that turned me on to you was being on Greg Carlwood. He introduced me to him years ago. He makes everything more approachable. You said the same thing as him. He's like, I love him. He's like, I'm just a stoner in San Diego sharing my opinions. And like you said, you reinforce that. It's like, these are opinions. You're not forcing anything. I appreciate yours and Greg's approach. It makes it much more digestible, interesting to somebody like me that doesn't read as many books and walk that path as much. So thank you for what you do, and plus your voice is just it's amazing to listen to. It's like listening to a scholar teaching. It makes it so much more approachable to and inviting and warm. So thank you
very much.
right on, Gordon. Thanks, man.
Wow. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much love from the Pacific Northwest down to
Yes.
Tasmania.
Nice one. It's a
Gordon.
great part of the world.
All right, man. We'll stay in touch, okay?
All right.
Yeah. See
Take
ya.
care, brother. How's everybody feel?
I got to pee so bad.
Oh, it's like that.
I waited. I was like somebody on stage that had to pee the whole time. That celery juice.
I'm always the one that I told myself at
And
the
I just
beginning, like,
waited.
this is like a lecture. Like,
Yeah,
this
I
is
will
you're in a
not stop.
lecture hall. You can't get up and walk out.
No.
I'll
No
tinkle
matter what.
on my pants before
exactly.
I do
said
that.
the same thing. It was like, I'll sit here and pee a little before I'll get up and leave.
You know what, man? Like, yeah, Mel's coming back. Everybody, don't worry. That is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
That's exactly. He showed up exactly how.
And I really, that helped me,
It
like
should've
at the end saying what I said to that helps me because you and Mel are, you've read a lot more. I did when I was younger with my sister, but I've talked about that. I got turned off by it as I got a little bit older and went away from it. And someone like him and Greg and like him being on Greg's show, they're, so if you guys are like me, I used to a lot of times discount things and stuff, but there is, I mean, you listen to this guy, there's just no way of discounting what Gordon's saying and the advice he's given and stuff. It's just it's like common sense.
That's the thing.
It's been so lost in the bullshit that's going on.
That's the thing with magic. Okay, so magic from the outside of it is there's a world perception of it. What you've been seen in movies.
The craft.
Yeah, what you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, that's
sensationalized
Houdini.
version of magic. There's that. But magic at its core is I think about it like almost like chemistry for energy.
And it's what it is natural. It was here before us, and we came along and messed
Yeah.
up. Like he was talking about, we're now living in, especially the Western culture. It's been vilified. It's again danger, scary,
Or
trippy,
even more than
bad things can
vilified, it's
happen.
like
Evil.
it's laughable. Like, psh, yeah, right,
Yeah,
magic.
magic.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's either laughable or
Yeah.
evil. It's got a connotation of not good, don't fuck around, or this is
Yeah.
bullshit. everything they can do to be like,
Well, and even
this is the way to go, the imperialistic bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be saying something controversial, but all of religion, right? Yoga, magic, like what happens, especially in the West, is we'll take something that's so sacred, so powerful, and then,
Put a bunch of rules on it.
put a bunch of fucking stickers on it. 25% off, sale on, friggin'
Danger, slippery.
sale on chakra
And it's
cleansings.
like something
and-
he said, and expectations. Like you go into it like, this is what I'm going to achieve. Like you have an
Yeah.
end goal and you see that and you're going to be disappointed. You're going to fuck it up.
Well, what
It's-
I was going to say is, like, for me, like when I, back in, when Aaron and I first got married, always into, things of that nature. And up to this point, like moving here, right around the time 2015, I'll have to say it's 2015, I was just so disenchanted with the entire energetic Western model. I stopped teaching Kundalini yoga. I pretty much stopped practicing yoga. I wasn't doing like my little magical practices that I was doing because I was so grossed out by the
That's throwing the
How-
baby
how
out
it
with the
was
bathwater.
how it was tainted.
The taintedness, exactly. And there's always been this, Aaron just said it, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That is a mantra, a personal mantra for me, because through all of my frustration, like I said, with all like the Eastern practices and stuff that I had adopted in an honest, like earnest way, I was just like, well, fuck it all. Lululemon this and I am not trying to like I said, being controversial, like whatever. Sydney did.
you're not, you're not like he said, you're not judging.
It's not
It's
about
how you feel.
Yeah, it like came on to me as such an affront. It was so, and it paralyzed me in a sense. It's like what do I do now? Like, do I go back to it?
Well, it's losing a part of your identity.
and be fake to myself because I'm annoyed with it? Or do I go back into it knowing all the, like, breath work is one of the things that has changed my life from Kundalini yoga, and then I don't do it because I just threw the baby out with the bathwater, like, fuck all of it then. And what I said to Gordon was so true. Like, him saying that about his mom is like giving the permission. Yes, that's exactly what it wasn't. Permission. It was just like, no, it's okay. Yeah, it got a little shit on it. You can wash it off and still use it. And I'm just that's why I said I'm appreciative at the very end. I was just so grateful because it was like all of these things kind of swirling in my head from 2015 to right now, 2021. That back and forth, like, no, just do your practice. That's dumb. Just do it. And nope, I'm not doing it.
You can make it look any way you want it.
Well, I know all those things, but sometimes words, sometimes energy that follows words,
certain words,
really fucking changes it. And all these things in my head just kept me in a circle. I feel like Gordon kind of pushed me out of the circle.
And what he said something there, he said, I think we all reacted to that, but it's also another one of those things. It's like, well, duh, is the truth constantly changes.
Yeah.
And
sure
that's
it
a
does.
part of that. Like that helps me understand because I've always kind of poo-pooed on self-help books and stuff.
Oh, that's
it's like,
my jam.
Because like most of them, it's just fucking common sense. But the
We don't
truth
do it.
changes.
Yeah.
And the same thing like that. Maybe that, I mean, like even the breathing exercises. Maybe that was really needed right then, but then you don't need it for what? Because the truth is always changing. What you need, what
That's
your
very
nutrition.
true, Apple.
It's like nutrition.
Thanks,
it's like
Apple.
it's like this week I need grains and this and that. I'm not pooping right or something.
Sure.
But then that's going to change. You don't just all of a sudden adopt that lifestyle forever. And it's like he brought it up too. There's no universal answer
Yeah.
for fucking anything.
No.
It's all different.
Dang, Apple,
For
that
every
was
single person,
true.
there is no universal answer. I can't tell you what to do because I'm constipated.
No, Apple. There's one type of person,
and that seems to be what society and the earth is waiting for. Those people that are so scared is they want to be told what's the answer. Where's the magic pill? Where's the magic answer? You need to tell me what to do. Well, guess what? It's time to wake up and figure out what to do yourself.
He said it a few times. Sit with it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean run with it. That doesn't mean dance with it. Fucking sit down and stop doing and think about it. in your head. Like, commune with yourself. What's really going on? What are you really scared of? Are you really scared? Are you nervous? Or is that something that you think you are because everybody's saying it?
Well,
like,
a lot
what
of those
is
things-
your real feeling?
I got a big one for everybody out there listening. And I don't know if this is a revelation for you guys out there or not, but we are going through grief.
Yeah.
And just realize
Grief.
that, just for let that sink in. Like,
We've got to grieve and let some things go.
yeah, man. And
Well, I said that to you the other day, and you were like, yeah, because I'm like thinking about all these things that are happening, and they're like all like endings of stuff, endings of ways that we did
Ways of
things,
thinking,
ending,
ways of
yeah,
being.
all of these endings, and an ending requires grief to get on to the next thing.
And that's the part that, at least for me, that my grief gets rooted in the ending, and I fail to see that as a beginning. Does that make sense?
Dang. Every ending is a beginning.
Yeah, I fail to see that, and I'm longing for the thing that has passed on, and not realizing that what is coming could actually be better. Dum.
Well, I like what he's talking about. The thing we talk about all the time is like what we like to do, shows, festivals, and stuff. That's going to become covens and things happening out in the woods. And
I'm down.
You know how much more special that's going to be.
Let's go get
and how
spooky, man.
All the people that are
I've been-
there
I've been
are going
saying
to
that shit.
supposed to be there. It's
This is
Come on, Susie, get it out.
I was going to say this is my favorite one. Honestly,
the truth constantly changes.
Yeah. Apple, I fucking love you.
It is.
No,
it's
it's true,
It's
but
my favorite one now.
Up until
I can't wait to listen to more of his stuff,
Right?
Mary Hang. I should have been recently, but now I got the Gordon bug.
well, this year, whenever this decides to come out, just know that No Simple Road is literally bringing you the best that we can.
Oh, yeah.
Know that.
I was like, I need to find people that are just really smarter than me.
Yeah. And you know what that
Totally.
leads to? It's like us doing music, how much we appreciate every time we talk to a musician. We find out usually about 2 to 5 or 6 more musicians that we haven't heard of.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like,
A guy like this.
Talking about thinkers.
The way
and,
he's a thinker, the people that he looks up to, that he was talking about and
dude.
stuff. Imagine that. Like, these are the people that I look up to that helped me. It's like,
way
holy
that
crap,
he was
man. This is
looking at
important thinking.
his geographic location as in consideration for how he's planning his continuation of life. Just think about that, guys. Wherever you're at, not just geographically, but like emotionally, spiritually, right there. Think about that and how to move forward from that place instead of a random, what do I do? That is real meat. Where am I right now? What can I do to get better?
start stockpiling crab meat.
Oh, yeah. Bunch of top ramen guys.
No, about finding people that are smarter than us to like that. I have seen others with a platform that you could tell when they don't know what to do, they just start making shit up. You know what I mean? Like, just start babbling vague platitudes, and
I don't know.
I've seen that out there, and I never want to do that with this. And that, like, the people that's been the whole thing with No Simple Road ever since the beginning, was it's the people that inspire our life that we have on the show. You know what I mean? The musicians and authors, artists.
Well, we had each other on the show too.
But I'm talking about 3 years worth of show. It's been that. It's the people that yeah, of course, you guys were the first ones. You're the closest people to me, the ones that inspire my life. But this is where we're at right now. There is no festival happening. There is no concert going on. These are the people that are inspiring our lives right now and getting us through this. So that's why, for me, I want to bring them to you guys out there, because if it's doing something for me and we're family, then it's got to be do something for you too. Hopefully, you know what I mean. So I don't know.
A good conversation.
Well, yeah, I just can't see like who doesn't want to be educated, especially now, and educated by the right people. And this was really special to me. I didn't know it was going to be so special.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you know what the deal is. We'll be back next week with more stuff and things, and yeah, take care of yourself. Connect with that living field this week. Do yourself justice. Sit with it.
No, I wanted to leave one more thing that we didn't.
One more thing.
That it didn't come up with him, which was in the earlier thing that he said, which was giving credence to Napoleon. Like the fighting and the hate and everything that's going on right now. Napoleon said, when your enemy is making a mistake,
never interrupt your enemy.
Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake.
Let it happen, man. Let it happen.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. We love you, and take care of each other. Let us know if you need anything, and we'll see you next week.
And let us know what you thought about the show.
Yeah.
You know, this show specifically. Let us know what kind of new thoughts it spurred, or what you know, if it caused any kind of change or emotion or new way of doing things.
And if you're still listening to the show at this point, thanks.
Kudos to
Appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, because you really fucking hung in there.
We're gonna hear from three
all
people
the way to the end, and now we're just talking to talk. So
Yeah.
That's not true.
I love you.
We love
We'll see you soon.
Peace.
But it's a burden. Family needs has been deferred, and hell means been the earth, and alchemy can bring the birth, the melody of a newborn. So persistent, so resistant, so insistent, so commitment, so resilient, or haven't you learned it? One simple road. Shattered as I focus through the spot in the corner that is still intact. The react is both a defense mechanism as well as a fear. We've traveled this road before, so we may think, but it's a tad bit of strange similarity that feed an A equal A complex. The fears of your past do not equal the perplexities of the current road.
Hey listeners, I want to tell you about the April-May 2023 issue of Relics magazine. Features a Dave Matthews Band cover story with additional articles and interviews with The National, Graham Nash, Wayne Shorter, ALO, Ivan Neville, our friend Eric Krasno and Stanton Moore, Marty Stewart, and much more. Check out the latest version of Relics and subscribe now at relics.com/DMB. Thanks, Relics.
What's up, everyone? It's Joe, and I'm the host of That's Awesome with Joe, a podcast on the newly formed Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. I talk with tons of your favorite artists, managers, touring personnel, and more. Most of the time we talk about music, but lots of the time we end up talking about something completely unrelated. We laugh a lot. We do a lot of really stupid things, but also some things that are really informative and interesting. Basically, it's a podcast that I think you should listen to. Obviously, I'm biased because it's my podcast, but I think I might be into it if I wasn't the host. Check it out at soundtalentmedia.com.